I will open tonight's meeting. Ask someone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Did you already start the allegiance?
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Bloomberg Public Access channel. I would start by asking if there is any public comment from the board this evening.
I'll save my public comments to the end of the evening.
Okay. The only public comment I want to make this evening is for those people, many in attendance, I'm sure. We have received every single one of your emails. And as you may or may not know, there is a meeting tomorrow between some representatives of the LSIC and their council, myself, the town manager, a member of the Conservation Commission, and our council, and the conservation agent. So all of the things that you wrote about will be discussed at tomorrow's meeting. It's not on the agenda tonight to talk about because of that, because we'll be meeting with them tomorrow before their regularly scheduled meeting. So just be aware that we have received all of them. I appreciate everyone for their input. And obviously, the various parties of tomorrow's meeting will be able to report out to everyone. We won't be able to say anything until our next meeting, which would be earliest next week. But obviously, what happens at that meeting through all the other representatives, I'm sure you'll hear about.
Because it's lawyers involved, is it a closed-door meeting?
It is a closed-door meeting, right? Okay. Any public comment from the public? We have a podium here, so if you have a public comment, please come up. And that's for the coverage. That's why we have it there. It's easier for the cameras. And also everybody at the table can see you.
Hi, Cindy Leakey, 140 Flynn. I sent an email to everyone, and I want to thank Mr. Jeffries for your prompt reply. I love how you listed everything that you heard us say and go through what you thought, what you know as the legalities and what have you. Although you may not be able to tell the LCC what to do, sometimes I think it's very important to mentor, counsel, or advise them. And I know that you have that ability, and I hope that you use that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Maureen Spent, and I live at 7 Ruth Street on Lake Shirley. Tonight, I just wanted to make sure that I know you know that the Lake Association is a nonprofit organization. We ask voluntarily for membership fees to help support primarily the weed and the algae treatment. We have different events throughout the year, and here's the funds primarily go towards weed and algae treatment. I'm really concerned that if there is no treatment on the lake this year, that it's going to be very difficult to obtain the membership fees in next year and future years, because people are going to think, okay, I paid my dues, but you never treated the lake, and now we've got even more problems. Next year is probably going to be more expensive if we don't treat the lake this year. Every event we've done block parties, we've done golf tournaments, we've done social activities. I usually have those on display, which is basically just our membership application form and a summary to the residents on the lake asking for their support. I think, Joanne, we have about a third of the residents, is that what you say, who voluntarily contribute towards the membership fee, but that leaves us 2/3 of people who do not voluntarily. And it just seems so ironical that you have a member on the Conservation Commission and a husband-wife member on the Board of Selectmen who choose to not pay their membership fee. What kind of a statement is that giving to the general public, what kind of a model are they for the general public to help support the lake treatment? I hope you take that into consideration, and let us know if you have any other ways that you can help support the treatment of the lake. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment from the public, please?
My name is Marilyn Jewell. I live at 20 Sunset Lane. Had a lot of people ask me, well, how come you're in front of the boards? And what's the difference between you and Hickory Hills? Well, the difference is Hickory Hills is a private lake. They have 549 homes, and their dues, which need to be paid because it's in their contract when they purchase property or homes. Okay? So they take in at least $120,000 a year. Okay? We have about 200 residents. Okay? And we probably get half of the people to pay, and it's $300. We can't make people pay. Some years people pay, some years they don't pay. It's very hard for us to raise money and to support all these extra programs that the Conservation Commission wants to put on us. We don't own the lake. Hickory Hills owns their lake. It's private. I just wanted to clear that up because some people are asking, what's the difference? Why are you there and why are they not having a problem? That's the difference. Cindy, excuse me?
Oh, hold on. If you're going to speak, I'm going to have to ask you to come up.
Is that microphone working?
It is for TV. I don't know, I can ask the control room, is that mic working inside for the indoor speakers?
I don't know that. How many are Joanna, Conservation, how many of those board members are from Hickory Hills?
I'm going to ask
Two
the
or three.
pertinency of that question. I mean, I don't know where you're leading with that.
Well, they have 2 members that live on Hickory Hills, and they don't seem to have any problems. And we have 1 member who won't even pay his dues, and we have numerous problems. So it feels a little unbalanced.
If I can just speak to that.
Yeah.
Because I have a waterfront in Hickory Hills. I think the point of the original comment was to not compare the 2 lakes because they are so different. And so I think we should be careful to think of anybody's intent in solving one problem or another connected with dots, because I grew up on the lake as a child and live there now, and the amount of volunteerism and the amount of effort to battle all the conditions of the lake are very similar, and the struggles are similar. We got feedback now. And so any input or thought I think we give to any of these circumstances, it's not, there's not a lake against a lake battle in my mind, because a lot of the things we're battling are the same. And what I was going to say as my public comment at the end of this is I appreciate everybody from Lake Shirley and understand lake management, because I've been witnessing it my whole life. And so I don't think that if somebody's from Hickory Hills, as I am, and have been most of my life, that it would play into any positive or negative feelings towards another part of town.
Okay, thank you. What we see sometimes, well, for example, when they replaced their dam, it took them a total of 45 minutes to go through the Conservation Commission to just totally talk about the dam and get it approved to be actually moved. And when we go and we do the same treatment year after year after year, identical stuff, just quantity of area, it takes us hours, and we have multitude of questions when it's the same thing over and over every year. So those are the kinds of differences that we see. Thank you.
I've been on Lake Shirley for 50 years. I've lived in Lunenburg for 53 years. I love the lake, And that's the only thing I really wanted to say, that people are asking that question, and I wanted to let them know what the answer was. We are different in that way, okay? We just don't have the pocketbook that they have. Okay? Thank you.
My name's Steve Bean. I live at 27 Fire Road 15. I guess question and comment. Comment is safety. So I understand that conservation is adding stuff to the order of conditions, and they're citing safety of the lake. What's the safety of the lake if the lake isn't treated? And the weeds, I don't know if anybody here has been on Lake Shirley this year. The weeds are significantly greater than they have been at this point in time since 2006. I moved on the lake in 2005. I have an 8-year-old child who swims in the water, and I have weeds encroaching the beach. So that's my comment. And I guess my question is, whereas Hickory Hills is private and Lake Shirley isn't, so the town of Lunenburg owns Lake Shirley. So liability, I guess, is my question. So what is the liability aspect when it comes to the town if Lake Shirley, we back out and the Improvement Corp, and we're done fighting, and then it's now thrown on the town? Who's going to take that over? Yeah. And where's the safety aspect going to come with kids swimming and boating? I just don't see the financial implications are huge, I see. And who owns that responsibility after the fact? And then you take in to the waterfront of all the lakes in town, and the taxpayers are much higher. Well, if that lake is not swimmable and not safe and not recreational, the property values go down, which means our taxes should go down in turn with that. That's something that I see certainly coming down the line if the lake goes to what it was in 2005. So I don't know what's going to transpire after these meetings in the next couple of weeks, but those are my comments.
Thank you. As far as the liability, I couldn't answer the question right now, but we'll have town council there at the meeting tomorrow. As far as the taxes are concerned, I mean, obviously lakefront property is assessed higher, which is why you don't pay a higher rate, you just pay more because your homes are assessed more. Because obviously lakefront residency is very popular, so.
But I would assume that value will go down if the lake is unusable.
In your hypothetical, I would assume that would be true. Any other comments from anybody?
Ashley Braun, 607 Reservoir Road. Michael Jeffries, thank you very much for answering my email. Along with many of the others, we really appreciated your fair and thought-out response. It was nice to know that we were, at least heard, and you were recognizing us, so I really do appreciate that. To follow up on Steve, safety is a huge concern of mine as well. I have a 3-year-old daughter. I have effectively soon-to-be 12-year-old stepson with my boyfriend Todd, and I have a bulldog that I can't get out of the lake because he wades in it all the time. Aside from the weeds being a huge problem and the treatment of those, and the threat to the value of our home and our livelihood, I'm really concerned about the algae this year. I've voiced that both at the LSIC board meetings, and I'll share that with you right now. If you have any advice on how to tell a 3-year-old or a bulldog that doesn't really listen to me anyway, how to stay out of the lake and not drink the water if there's an algae plume, please let me know. It's going to be very challenging to say, no, the lake's closed. You can't go in there. You can do the best you can, but I mean, that really changes our quality of life on the lake for anybody who, is concerned about safety. Sure, you can still go out on a boat and whatnot, but not being able to swim and enjoy it and have my family swim and enjoy it and know that they're going to be safe enjoying it is a huge concern. So again, you know, if it comes to a pass where the LSIC does walk away, I'll be one of the residents in front of you, you know, asking for you to protect the safety of my family for this year's algae treatment, if needed, if applicable, and the years going forward, because that's a huge concern for me and anybody else that uses the lake. Thank you.
Anybody else? If you, just before you speak, Jackie, if anybody wants to speak, don't ask me to, I mean, if you want to speak, when you see the other person, there's a good distance, you could just get up. That would save us a lot of time.
Jackie Ramondelli, 599 Reservoir Road. As you know, and probably most of the people in this room, I grew up on Lake Shirley. We started this program, as you know, in 2006. It's been a great program. You see the people here, the people that are concerned. You know, we went to the Conservation Commission last year, like we always do, like we have a million times, just asking, you know, to get our order of conditions straightened out so we could take care of it this year. So then we wanted an extension to take care of our lake this summer. We realized that we're going to have to do something with our NOI and everything after. We were looking for an extension to take care of what we need to for this summer, to avoid any issues, to, you know, having our lake go down the drain and go backwards from where we've come. So, you know, it's a shame that the Conservation Commission has not really been willing to help us with that. So, obviously, you know, that's why we've come here, for some help and direction. So with all the people that have spoken and all the people that have come up, I hope that you understand the concern here, and, you know, it would be nice to just let us have our extension so we can deal with what we had to deal with in the future. And we realize, you know, it's coming and we'll have to go through all of this stuff all over again, but that's okay. We just need to take care of the issues at hand. So I hope you hear us. Thank you.
So I can certainly say, as I said at the beginning, of course, we have read all of them, we hear all of them. I'm not, I mean, my lack of comment here is because we have the meeting tomorrow, not because I don't have a position or something I'd like to say on them. It just, it's not the venue because we have a whole meeting between all the parties tomorrow. So we do hear all of you. Believe me, we understand your concerns. And that's why tomorrow, hopefully with everybody in the room, we can make some headway toward a resolution quicker than later. So that is our intent. And I applaud everybody for coming meeting after meeting to show your support for obviously your concerns in the lake. So thank you.
We appreciate your time and listening. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, announcements. Aside from the announcement of the meeting, which I already said, I don't have any other announcements. Do you have any announcements?
No. Well, the walking tours for both the Main Street area and the Whalum area are coming up. So July 25th at 5 p.m. is the Whalum area, and that will commence at the parking lot along Whalum Lake. And on July 30th at 5 p.m., starting at Town Hall, we'll do the Main Street area, and this is the second time that will be done.
Right. It'll be the same one. If you've been on the first one, it'll be basically the same tour. So if you've done the first one, unless you want to do it again, it's like a fun ride. But if not, it will be the same. So there's not going to be anything new. I mean, obviously there'll be different people, maybe different questions. Okay. I'm going to... You wanted to go right to the workshop, right? Because Adam is here. Or did you want to go? Do you want to go over the current business? We're going to save the town manager, right? We're going to hold off on that.
Mm-hmm.
Are we losing quorum there? No. Did you say something else on the meeting?
No.
No. Did you want to do the current business first, or did you?
Sure.
Okay, so current business, review of assistant town manager, HR director position, description and recommended classification under the salary administration plan, and that is on everybody's Google Drive here.
So, in the Google Drive, I prepared a draft position description I wanted to bring to the board first before my meeting with the Personnel Committee, which is on July 22nd at 6 p.m. And they are the body that would approve position descriptions. So this outlines all the roles and responsibilities of that position. And as stated at town meeting and prior to that, the primary function will be HR director. Will also assist with procurement and a wide variety of special projects as assigned.
I think this is a very well-written description of job descriptions. I don't have any recommendations or suggested changes.
Personally, I feel the same way. I think it's very clear what you're trying to do, what kind of environment they're going to be in, what their essential functions are. Does anybody else from the board have? Okay, any questions from anybody on the board?
No.
So I don't know that we need one, but I would accept a motion just to make it official about going ahead with accepting this description and then going ahead so that the town manager can advertise for it. Any further discussion?
I think I would just say that I was pretty outspoken against the position, so that sort of lies with my overall feeling that I think there were other staff positions, particularly in public safety, that I would have preferred seeing. I hope the position works out, but I think it was a lot of money for something we probably could have foregone.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? All right. All those in favor of the Assistant Town Manager, HR Director positions description, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
So 3-1. What is your plan now for posting this, advertising for this?
So I will be bringing this to the Personnel Committee on Monday. And assuming they approve the position description, we'll discuss also the grade classification, and it would be advertised with all that information as well.
Currently, you're suggesting it be grade 16, which is what starting level?
It
approximately?
is, tell you, sorry.
Not that I wanted to put you on the spot, but I already did. so.
3884 is the starting
Okay.
rate.
Okay. Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's get through all the niceties here. Minutes. I think these are all still before Michael and I, so these are yours. And warrants. Accounts payable warrant in the amount of $771,274.85. All right. Another accounts payable. Is this the end of?
Yes,
This
fiscal
is the end
19.
of fiscal 19. So, another accounts payable for $688,136.19. Action file issues. Anybody have any action file?
I just have a question about the Walmart intersection, if there's been any updates in talking to the state about changing.
MRPC is helping with a crash data survey that needs to be done to submit to the state for it to go to that
I'll just
level.
keep asking, because I feel like one day we'll have the crash, and we'll be like, why didn't we do anything?
Yeah, they're working in process.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other action file issues? Committee reports.
None.
None. Okay. So let's get down to the policy workshop. which we are going to be discussing today, the special event policy. Special event permit guidelines, actually. And we will ask our land use director, Adam Burney, who is already joining us in progress. Something we said? I mean,
I don't want to stop. I didn't want to. I can see all of this. So you have a new draft. I think it's actually 9, not 8, but I don't know if that matters. In front of you that hopefully addresses some of the things we talked about post public hearing and at the last meeting. The major changes were, this tickler list of items that would potentially trigger a special event permit, and the inclusion of a description of how the public hearing would happen and be conducted, and what the sort of parameters would be to introduce the public hearing to the abutters and to the board. And in looking at this just now as I sat down, I'm noticing things that could have been probably more streamlined in that layout of the tickler list. The main topics should probably be numbered. You'll notice that like the electricity and the water and the food have some sub-items.
Yep.
And, if you do electricity, you could theoretically check 3 yeses, and that would really go a long way to triggering that. So what I would propose is changing it to numbering the main categories. So does the event require electricity would be numbered, and those the sub categories wouldn't count as a yes towards the 7. So that if you check 3 of those, you're not checking almost half of.
Sure.
And I think that's just kind of a
Right.
one of those things that catches your eye.
You're saying it's the answer to the major topic
does it
that's
require
important.
electricity?
The other ones
Yes.
are just FYI.
Correct. They're just kind of informational.
Yep.
And looking at it again, this also looks a lot like the application. So,
Right.
we could remove the yes and no check boxes to make it look a little more streamlined if that was something that you wanted in your policy, or we can leave them in because it's nice and easy to look at.
So first of all, thank you for all this work, because I think this very accurately captures the format, and in many of the items, the exact items, I made a whole list of items here before I got your draft, and most of these, I think, in fact, maybe all of them are on it, and then some. So I think it's probably good that we go through these one by one. Well, let's take the preamble. Does anybody have any question about the first paragraph that introduces the categorization?
No.
Okay, the only question I have is the number of items which we may want to address, but we'll.
And again, I was taking a stab at it.
Jim, I mean, you had to put in a number, and
Yeah.
that's fair enough. I mean, so let's deal with category A. Does anybody feel any item in category A should not, by itself, trigger the need for a special event? Now, we're calling these permits, but we deal in licensing. Does the Board of Selectmen have any permits that we deal with? Or do we just deal with licenses?
Earth removal.
What?
Earth removal.
Right.
Yeah, well,
For now.
Yeah,
Only one.
well, exactly. But, and
I
we're
mean,
looking
we
to
can
get rid
call
of
it a
that.
special event license if you want to call it that.
Yeah, and I know it sounds petty, but it just keeps it consistent. I think we
Sure.
issue license. Permit
Yep.
sounds more ZBA and planning boardish. Because permits seem to be geared
You-
towards
yeah, and you
zoning.
are a
And this has
licensing
nothing to do
authority.
with zoning, right? All right. Does anybody have any objection to that change?
No.
Okay. So, do any of these 4 issues, is the event scheduled to be a multi-day event? Are camping or overnight activities part of the event? Is the event requesting the use of town property? Or will the event require that a street be closed? That's a good addition. I hadn't thought about that one, but that's excellent. So, does anybody disagree that any one of those alone should trigger the need for this license?
No.
Does anybody have any additional ones that they feel alone would?
I might be able to be a little helpful here, Mr. Chair. I think that the proposed changes as is are fully acceptable to me.
Okay,
So
but we're gonna go through, we're gonna
One
go
of the
through, we're gonna
opposition-
touch them for the audience about what they are anyway, so I appreciate that.
I would, the only thing I would, sorry.
I don't have anything to add, you can agree.
If the event is requesting the use of town property, I think there should be probably one other trigger for that, not just solely because it's using town property, because we have a lot of requests that are very small events.
Okay.
Like such as the gazebo, National Prayer Day or something, to that extent. It wouldn't require, I don't think, that whole process to be, but maybe.
Where do you draw the line, though? Who decides when the threshold's crossed? If
Oh,
some
we do.
events are, well, no, she's saying some events would just not need this and some would.
I think she's suggesting pushing it to category B, so it's part of a 7. So there are other things that you would have to check to make it, like, just solely being the use of town property wouldn't trigger a special event license
Because
request.
band concerts would be excluded.
Yeah, well, that's town stuff, yeah, exactly.
And so it's like the cruise nights town to town, so most of our events
Right.
are municipal.
Yep.
So without really looking at examples or whatnot, I would leave it in category A until we fully understand the process, because that whole definition is based on that concept.
I'm gonna ask you this, I don't disagree fully with Selectman Adams, but I do have a question. So if someone wants to have a take wedding photos in a gazebo and book time, how would they go about doing that now?
They come through our office to get permission to use the
Or just tell them
gazebo.
we'll drive it over.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think, I mean, I think to that, it's a public space, right, so you can take pictures.
But I think
anywhere.
what he's saying is they want to specifically say, our wedding is Saturday, June 12th.
They
at
wanna
3
reserve the
o'clock,
spot.
And we want the gazebo to be clear at 4:15, so the wedding party isn't going there and chasing the kids off who are at the Pokemon gym, and the guy who is playing his accordion
I got
over in
it.
the back,
I
but,
got it.
you know.
Right, they want to reserve this.
Yes.
Space. It's not that they want to use
Then
it
it's
solely.
probably a special event.
Right, well, that's, yeah, I mean,
I mean, technically, it's crossing a line then. It's just the definition that we've put together says that a special event is any private event or activity held on public property. Therefore, I feel like A is appropriate to trigger its own definition.
I think that if someone were, now I'm going to go kind of backwards here a little bit. If someone were to
Dear.
want to, no, 'cause I think that you just made a really good point. That if someone were to want to take wedding photos at the gazebo, I mean, in all fairness though, like if you show it with 2 limousines and get out, I mean, people are going to move out of the way so you can take your wedding photos.
I don't think we want to overanalyze this.
Yeah, so.
so in your case, in the example you gave,
That's the one instance I can think of, like.
any
yeah,
others?
it's-
And in that instance, let me ask you this, I mean, as we do with all licensing, we have it within our jurisdiction to waive the fee, right? So it's just a matter that they have to file with us and have a hearing. It's not like it's gonna cost them money, correct? I mean, we can make it not
Yep,
cost
oh,
money.
yeah, that's at your discretion.
I think it would be a good practice to be consistent, that we just set up a definition and don't already say, well, once in a while, this person or that person doesn't need it. I think we just set up a policy and then try to broadly apply it.
Can I give you one more thing that might help you? We could include a section in here that would give you the ability to waive portions of the policy in instances. So if someone, for National Prayer Day, maybe they need to come and get a special event license, but maybe they don't need to give you all of this. Or if they want to, absolutely, we have to reserve time. We don't care about paying to reserve the time for our wedding photos. They don't have to give you all of this. And you can still issue them the license. And that way, you're meeting the spirit of what you're doing here, but you're also giving somebody who maybe doesn't hit all of the needs of everything in here a chance to get like a license light.
Right, well, and I think that's what I was implying.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'd be,
Yeah, if that's all they're doing is using town property, but if you could conceivably want to use town property for prayer day or whatever and not be doing any of the things in category B at all,
Mhm.
what are we reviewing? except for the fact.
Correct, you're just granting them permission to use town property, which I believe you can do, can't you?
Because the town and Board of Selectmen and Town Manager have the jurisdiction over town property, it needs to come to us. Because otherwise, we can't just have people reserving with no other process, reserving places. They got to come before us anyway. Now, the fact of, I can see the town manager's point and I can see Katie's point, so let's come back to it for a second. Let's look at all the things in category B first before we come back to that one. I'm leaning toward leaving it in category A.
Okay.
How about, there are certain events that do happen annually, like National Prayer Day, such as the Boy Scouts always do a coat drive on the Ritter Lawn, like things like that happen annually. I don't know if the beginning of the year, just granting those, prior to them happening, so
Always so
that
cautious
process.
about setting up anything where we just give some people an automatic waiver without having a policy that's just global. If it can't apply to everybody, then it's not a good policy.
Right, but if you're applying for this license, you have to submit the items requested laid out here. There's nothing to submit if your event's that small.
I understand, like Adam said, we might want to tweak the way somebody goes through the process, but I don't want to automatically say that certain people or groups don't have to go through the process and others do, because then when you trigger, then, well, this group has to and that group has to, then I start to feel uncomfortable. Why are we waiving for them and not them? And then we're being inconsistent, and inconsistency is...
Well, I hear you.
Sometimes I say I like consistency.
So then with that in mind, I think I believe it would be more consistent. Because if it's going to be a multi-day event, they have to be checking off some of the things in category B. I mean, there's no way they're going to have that. The camping or overnight by itself is going to require people parking, staying. So that's the only one that I think is the town manager thing. I think what you just said actually makes the case to put it in category B. It'll be part of the decision, but that alone wouldn't trigger all the other things, because as we've just said, there are uses that are current already that don't trigger any of these things, that don't have amplified music, they don't have electricity, they don't have porta potties or potable water. So it would be an addition to B as one of the 7 check marks.
Doesn't something have to trigger them requesting on public land anyways for anything? They seek permission from Heather, so there has to be a trigger of any event on public land.
Well, that's a good question. What is the current use? If somebody wants to use it, what is our method of doing it now? Because we don't have a special event.
It's just information they fill out, the dates, times.
It's just an event, not a special event.
Right.
Right. So it's just a request for the use of the land.
Use of the property.
What about a renewal for annual singular events? That would allow them to file a letter requesting renewal as long as there aren't changes to the event. I don't imagine National Prayer Day changes much year to year other than the date.
Maybe the prayers.
Well, but I mean the structure of the event, the layout, and the Boy Scout coat drive and the Mother's Day plant sale.
Yeah.
It's the same every year.
Just as a hypothetical though, what if on that Mother's Day day, I have a new event, the Girl Scouts want the Ritter Lawn, and 2 people are applying for the same day, things like that.
There's no reason those 2 events, theoretically, there's no reason those 2 events couldn't happen on the same day.
If you give somebody the right to always use something on the same day.
Oh, I didn't say you guarantee it. You would give them the opportunity to renew with just a letter, so they're not processing a new application every year.
So
They're
their
sending you
original application can
Correct.
stand.
They're sending you a letter that says, we're going to conduct our coat drive again. Here's the dates. All of the previously submitted information remains the same. Please schedule us for our meeting with you. Because they come and see you anyway.
I agree, but I also think that because of the event layout of all the things that we're asking them to provide, that this licensing policy foresees that it's going to be an event of some size. That is the whole thing that it's attempting to capture. And if somebody wants to have a national prayer event at the gazebo, what do they reserve it for? 2 hours, 3 hours? I mean, that certainly doesn't rise to this. So I think that the fact that it's on public property alone, I tend to lean toward the fact that it should be one of the category B, that it helps in getting there, but you'd have to be checking off some other things.
I also want to note that the very beginning of this definition is that a special event is any private event held on public property.
Yep.
So, I mean, if someone like National Prayer Day is a public event, right, held on public property, and I would, dare say that if we have, 100 people praying in at the town gazebo, that there is nobody that's going to interrupt that and say, oh, do you have a permit for this? Because I think that falls. So, I think that even as we go through this, I think that we understand that there are going to be some natural exceptions to people exercising their God-given rights on public property. And that there's not, we're not going to necessarily be able to regulate all of it, but I think that the distinction between a private event on public property, I think that.
And I think you bring up a good point, because wording is everything. I have a funny hunch that you brought up what I think is a weakness in this. I think the use of the word private event is not necessarily accurate. I think it should be an event held by a private party, because the town doesn't sponsor National Prayer Day.
I was going to say, National
clearly.
Prayer Day isn't technically a private event because the town isn't sponsoring it.
Right. So it really means, a special event is any event or activity presented or whatever the word, produced, whatever the verb we want to do, by a private party. It doesn't have to be a private event, meaning that you can't come. It means that it's being hosted and sponsored by a private party.
So that would be then a change to the first
Right.
sentence.
Correct.
Right. But I think that's a good catch, because I think that makes a big difference in the way it's worded.
Yeah. But again, my point, I think, underlying that though, is that certain events, no matter what, are going to happen, and this isn't going to capture them, such as people coming together to pray on town land.
Yeah, but, right, because it's a common.
Yeah.
Exactly. But that's the difference between reserving it, so. So, do we want to decide among us whether that event requesting requesting the use of town property should be put as one of category B, or kept as a category A, where in and of itself
How
triggers?
long do things like the coat drive and the plant sale go for?
I think most of the day, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to suggest potentially a length of time in category A as opposed to just using town property if, more than 3 hours. But I guess that could.
I'm for that, if you want to add that to that.
But that could also, that still sounds
then-
like it's going to catch some of the things that
But then you're adding a second criteria, so we might as well just put it in category B again. It's additive. So that, in and of itself, does that make logical sense to people? I don't know.
I would put it in B.
As far as event on using town property?
Yeah.
I keep it in there.
I think that the changing of the definition, having it in A is fine, because the definition alteration shouldn't trigger as many uses.
Okay. So it looks like it's deadlocked, so we don't have.
Where's
The
Phyllis?
good news is we can always change our policy, and we can change it next week. If
Sure.
we really regretted our
Well-
decision tonight.
Right. Okay, so let's go on to category B. Let's leave everything there right now. So will the event so let's just go through these quickly, and if anybody wants to discuss one or thinks it shouldn't be there, you'll let me know. Will the event have amplified music or entertainment? Does the event require electricity? Anytime you want to say that you want to discuss it, we'll just stop.
Okay. Require electricity, every event requires electricity. Should it say additional electricity or modifications to electricity in terms of just, does the event?
Well,
have
not every
electricity?
event requires electricity.
But,
Every event.
National Prayer Day.
I was going to say, I have a.
No, but on a private resident, I'm just saying like an altercation to,
Well, does the event require electricity? Not is there electricity on the property?
okay.
So if you're having the Pride event, if it happened on the common, and it was just a vigil and a small fire, there's probably not a need for them to amplify things because it's a somber event. They're having, a moment where they're remembering, and they're probably not bringing a microphone.
I understand. I was just going to recommend possibly using the word additional. Does the event require additional electricity?
What are you trying to capture here, I guess? I don't, because I agree, I don't understand the use of electricity. I would be hard pressed.
Because you need permits and stuff to bring
Correct. You
in
need
extra
permits to bring them in,
electricity,
and
like if you're at a
it
stage.
usually if you're
You need an inspection.
doing something that requires electricity, it's something that's going to be a larger style event, whether it's carnival games or lights or other things that require the electricity, whereas a low-key or limited event is generally not going to need that type of, and generators create noise. Having to bring electricity from a fixed location requires wiring and the pulling of extension cords and stuff throughout, so there's trip hazards and other stuff that you have to identify.
Okay.
And
All right.
So do you feel okay about the word additional electricity, just to trigger that concept that it's something out of the ordinary?
Well, I think, or if you just,
Just
didn't-
because
if you didn't-
everybody will say yes for.
well, it can say whatever you want. I don't know additional to what, but
what you're really trying to ask is what he has here, but it's just broken up. Does the event require generator, or are you requesting use of the town power source?
I think additional would have to be.
See, in this case, I would say, to your very first point when you introduced this, saying just the header, that would be the only thing that matters. I would say what matters is what kind of power they're gonna get. Because I think there's a big difference between bringing a generator, which has liability involved with it as an external running fuel source and everything.
That's why I think additional or modified electricity, I feel like would just help bring all the things that are under it into the original question. I know, okay, the prayer day might not have electricity, but most events
Right.
use electricity, so yes would be the answer for a lot of people having an event.
Right, well, I
Having a
agree with
party
you.
using electricity, yes.
So I think additional, we'd have to wordsmith it, because I don't know what additional means. So I know what you mean, but that's not what the word additional would mean.
How about just all the things that are under it, but make that the question?
That's what I was trying to say.
That what, make them individual questions?
Just
No,
If
make
it was
them
just-
combine them.
If you get rid of the bullets, it says, does the event require a generator or use of town power source?
oh,
There you go.
And then you're triggering the additional
Right.
concepts.
There you go. All right, that's good.
Okay.
Are you proposing to erect any tents or temporary structures? That makes sense to me. Will a stage be erected for the event? Are there any mechanical rides or inflatables proposed? Okay. Does the event require potable water?
so why don't we do the same thing with that one we
Yep.
did up above?
Yep, just list them all. Does the
That
event
solves the
require?
problem of the-
Will the event provide sanitary facilities?
With food, I think
I
we
mean,
could do the same.
Honestly, we don't even need to
allocation.
do that. We can just take those off. Because whether it's one or the other, it still requires some contact with the Board of Health and just adds to the intensity of the event.
What do you mean?
Whether it's cooked on site or catered.
Doesn't
You're
need to
still
be-
providing food. It still has implications into.
Well, we're gonna filter some common things through these checklists to see what we get. For instance, a wedding. If you have a wedding on your property, clearly you're gonna be serving food.
But that's not a public event, so it wouldn't trigger it because you're inviting a private group to your house for a wedding. So it wouldn't go through this. Because a wedding's not open to the
It's not
public.
open to the public, right? So that's,
Unless
so,
it was on town.
If you had a wedding on the lawn.
right,
next to
on the town
Tassos.
property, I get,
But then
right?
in
Or an
A,
event
that would
open to
trigger
the general
without the
public.
list. We left it in A,
Mhm.
so check. You have to come before us to be wed.
Okay, all right, there you go, all right. Will there be animal rides or a petting area? Makes sense. Will be a swimming area. Will alcohol be available? Will vendors be present? Will the event be requesting coverage from the fire department? And then again, for the next one, will the event be requesting coverage from the police for either traffic control or event security? Just put it all in one question.
Yeah.
Are you requesting the use of any town building? There's only, I want to go through my list because I think you covered them all. So there's a couple things that weren't, that I think probably should be added, and that would be, it would be a projected attendance. I mean, again, there's no, I mean, we're not going to be having somebody there with a clicker, but you'll be able to know if somebody says, hey, listen, the neighbor says you're going to have 75 people, and all of a sudden 300 people show up at somebody's house.
So do you want to put in ranges? How do you want to handle that?
Because on some lots, like if it's 0.3 acres and somebody's inviting
Well,
200 people.
which is why I also put density.
Well, I was going to say, I think that, well, so you want to use that as a trigger for whether the event requires the permit, or do you want to include that as part of the application? Because that's something that I would certainly think would go on the application, proposed number of attendees.
No, I think it should be part of the application without a doubt.
Yeah.
I think it should be a trigger event.
Okay.
If you have something, again, so, again, a use like people talked about, a yard sale. How would a yard sale doesn't require this because you're not expecting, 300 people showing up at the same time. It's going to be open during the day and it's kind of spread out. But if you're having an event, you have people used in the planning board, when Ken was on it, he was talking about the snow riders. If you have a special event and you have 70 people coming, that might be fine. But all of a sudden, if you say, you know what, if you know somebody wants to come, bring them, and all of a sudden it's this huge thing.
I'm trying to parse out how to add that. Because everything else is yes, no.
Yep.
And
Okay, so let's come back to it then, okay? Because there are some other yes-nos one. So I think that, I think one of the category A ones I would like is if it's for-profit. If it's a for-profit event, it definitely deserves a special event license.
But for profit, then fundraising, I would ask, because so often there's big events, fundraising.
Well, but I mean, they're called nonprofits. I mean, so if you do something for the Salvation Army, Boys and Girls Club, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, those are nonprofit organizations.
I mean, sometimes you have something like the Cherry Hill fundraiser that's just a fundraiser, and it's not really necessarily, hasn't gotten, I mean, that was in Fitchburg, but
Right.
hasn't gotten nonprofit designation, but it's still a big event. It's technically for profit, but for the sake of fundraising. So I would want to make sure that we're not.
I don't know if it would be categorized as for-profit.
I guess fundraising, a huge event, you would still want.
Right, and,
permitting.
yeah.
I think that what you're saying is, what you're asking is for profit in the sense of you're making money off
Right.
of this.
You're going to use your property for money.
Versus fundraising, is raising money for a nonprofit purpose.
But I guess in theory, nonprofits pay to rent the Knights of Columbus to hold their fundraiser. And the Knights of Columbus makes their $120 hall rental fee or whatever it happens to be. So if the event is not, so if a 501c3 holds an event, but the property owner charges them a fee, is that for profit or is that nonprofit?
It's still nonprofit.
I don't know if I want to get into that being in category A, just so we don't create confusion. Because I think that style event will trigger the permit on its own.
That was one of the things that got brought out in this whole zoning thing.
yeah.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
And I think that's a good distinction. I'm just trying to understand.
I think
where-
paying a fee for usage of the property, that's a good question. I mean, for for sake of argument, I would say, yeah, you can't charge them a fee to use it. If you charge them and you as a landowner are making money, that means there's a money exchange. If I say, I'm on the board of directors, I was on the board of directors of the Boys and Girls Club, and I want to have a fundraiser at my house, and I don't charge them, I just want to don't, here, you can use it and have the
Yeah.
event. That's different than saying, hey, I want to, raise money, I have this invention idea that I want to have a whole bunch of people look at and get venture capitalists in. I mean, that's a different kind of story. Or if you're charging tickets, let's use Unifier, okay? Unifier, they charge tickets. That should automatically trigger a special
I agree with you
event.
that then falls into some of the zoning issues where somebody's using their residential property maybe outside of how it's zoned if it's becoming a little bit commercialized.
Well, I mean, I don't want this to be a zoning issue. I'm just saying that what triggers a special event? Because one of the things that I think we discussed, or at least floated, is that there'll be a limit to how many special events to avoid the zoning problem.
Well, can you,
So I want to make sure we capture all the things that we consider special events.
to capture what you're trying to do though, without getting into for-profit or nonprofit, can you just more broadly say, your participants have to pay a fee?
Well, I put that on the same thing. So I said for-profit or attendance prices, do you have to pay to participate?
And I think that should definitely trigger
So,
something. Do we all agree on that if you're paying to participate in one of these things, that by default should be?
right, if it's mandatory, that means you can't be at the event unless you pay. Not that put a donation jar and people can
Yeah,
donate what they want. That's totally different.
It could still be a nonprofit, just selling tickets to it. A lot of events will sell tickets so they know how many people are coming.
Right, but I think at that point, if you're going to sell tickets, then you should have to get a license for it.
That's what you said, I agree.
So if we want to go by ticket, charge to enter or charge to attend, then instead of for-profit, not-profit, it doesn't matter. That makes it easier. That means, will you charge people? Is it a mandatory fee to attend? That okay with everyone?
Yes.
Well, I kind of like the for-profit or non-profit element because someone could just work around the entry fee thing and charge for other items.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, we could do both. They could both be questions.
It could be one question.
Right, it could be one question, right.
In category B.
Is the event for profit or is there a mandatory fee to attend or participate?
You were saying category A, I thought.
Yeah, I would think that would be a category A thing, because we don't, you shouldn't be making money. Again, all of our town things, like the Cultural Commission that had their arts festival, there's no fees. I mean, you have to pay vendors for the food or for the wares that they're selling, the crafts, but I mean, there's no
I
entrance.
think it makes sense too because it already has to be a public event.
Yep.
So like if somebody's having a small private fundraiser that they invited
Right,
a specific group to, then that wouldn't trigger the sentence.
right. Neither would political fundraisers, because they would be covered under something else. Which they would. So,
Yeah, this whole thing sometimes what I've always said is we don't want to accidentally be required to be permitting everything under the sun. And the more we spread it out, the more I think of little odds and ends where I'm like, would this have to be a permit? And I don't think we want hundreds of permits a year coming before us when we're really just trying to organize a few specific circumstances. But how would a political event be carved out?
well, I think that's, you start getting into hosting an event at your house, I guess you get the freedom of speech things, especially political speech. Right. So,
Yeah, we don't regulate free speech.
right. So political, just like you can put up a political sign anytime you want.
Money's being exchanged, it might be still a little bit open to the public.
Yeah, most of the time, political events are not generally open to the public, and if they are, they're requested donations, they're not mandatory donations. Unless you go to a dinner at a hotel or something.
I'm going to say there are some where there's fees to enter and that's how they collect their
Like a dinner
donations.
ticket
Right,
price
right, if
instead.
you go to a restaurant with dinner or something, I guess. I mean, I guess.
But
everything
I would
is
say if
those.
you're going to a restaurant for dinner, that's similar to the exemption for commercial activities
Right,
on commercial
right, right.
premises.
No, it doesn't apply in
Yeah.
this case. No, absolutely. But I'm saying you could host one of them at your own house, but again, you get into a very dicey area when you start regulating political events. so.
Especially since we're political and then we're big with that
Right.
wrong. But I guess mostly then it would be handled by the fact that it would be most likely more of a private or semi-private event. Not public.
And I guess so I think that was the only other one that I'd say a category B item would be, because there was a lot of talk about hours, like, oh, 7 o'clock is 6 o'clock's too early, but maybe it's okay for setup and everything. That if we choose a pocket of hours and say, if you want to operate outside, like one of the check things in category B would, if you're going to be operating outside of 8 a.m. till, let's say, 9 p.m., that would be a check mark. If any of your operations is going to happen outside of that on either end, it's going to start earlier or go later.
Later in this document, I thought I read a part that they read where so that they have to happen between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. though.
Yeah, and I think that was, there is an hours section in there.
Right.
And we changed it to meet what the disturbing the peace was.
Right.
But I think what the chair is getting to is that hour between 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 may count as an extra ding against you.
Right, it's just
for
another
needing it,
criteria
just
for
as
needing
a, oh, well, it's starting kind of early, or it's going kind of late.
Because if you say an event's going till 10, people are going to clean up and it's going to,
I mean,
people
the
are going
event
to
ends
be
at 10,
going
but
on till
nobody's gone till
11:30.
11:30.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, that was just another thought I had. I didn't feel strenuously, I felt it was a good criteria, but I'm certainly not staking a position in the ground of it.
I think that we would ask, I'm sorry.
Personally, I don't want to add too many criteria to it where we start catching too many things.
Or it becomes confusing
Yeah.
somehow.
And I think we're going to capture that information anyway.
Okay.
And when-
Fair enough.
Yeah, but-
Just sharing my thoughts.
I only have one, well, just clarifying question, I guess, for the B items for, will the event be requesting coverage in the fire department or the police department? At what point are they requesting it, or are we telling them they need to have it?
True.
Because if they could just like, oh, I don't want another point, I won't request it. They really need it.
Well, and I guess that's, I think that's it's an interesting question, and I think the phrasing of the question leads to how someone perceives the magnitude of their event. You know, if if they're like, no, we don't think we're going to need it.
Will the event need approval from the fire department? Because then they'll have to stop and ask themselves.
They may not know that answer
Correct. Well, they may
either.
not know that, or they may think, oh, well, it's a small event, so I'm not gonna. I'm not asking for it because I don't think we need it. So, if they're not asking for it, doesn't mean you can't require it. If their event is big enough where it triggers this, or if it's small enough where it doesn't trigger this, I don't know that there would necessarily be a requirement of coverage from either of those departments. But it's big enough that it triggers this, it would give them the opportunity to look at it and say, yeah, we definitely need to have someone there. So I don't think the presence is what would count against them. It would be, oh, we're planning to, because we're expecting that it's going to be big enough that we need security or EMS or traffic control.
So instead of requesting, should we put need, so it would more likely trigger them to, yes.
Yeah, we're having a layperson apply for this, and I think the
Yeah.
manager mentioned, how would they know? Like, how would a person know that I need
Maybe we
fire?
need
They wouldn't unless they spoke to the fire chief or the police chief.
Right, but they wouldn't do that if they didn't have to go through the special event. So if this counts for them, then if they don't check it, that means they could get up with 6, and that one would be 7, and then they go around the event. I'm like, how did this get by us? Because they should check
What
that.
if we removed those 2 but made it 5 or something?
Right, that's
Yeah, so
I think the fire department, I think, is a harder one to say that someone's
Yes.
going to know to require. So we
Yes.
could probably remove that. The department with event security or traffic control, people should, again, that comes to volume of projected attendance. I mean,
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking is, they may not, we've had people come in and say, well, we're not asking for police assistance, but if you tell us we need it, we'll do it. And usually that's what happens is the chief will look at it and say, you know what, you really do need a detail officer out there to run traffic. I don't think we've had an event in town where the police, since I've been here, where the chief has said you need officers for security. Even the Unifier event, I don't believe he required detail officers for security.
Not for security,
No.
just traffic. Almost
Just
always
just the
Yeah.
traffic.
Yeah.
So if somebody is coming in saying we need security officers, then you might, you kind of look at the event.
And we have to ask for liability reasons if we want our police doing
Well,
event security. They should
yeah.
probably hire a firm at that point. So, yeah, I'd be willing to get the fire department one out, because I don't
Okay.
think the general public is going to know
Yep.
how to answer that question, and probably will answer it no.
Unless you combined it with police, as they would be needing or requesting coverage from either the police or fire departments, you would still capture it. Like if I was having a bonfire, I might kind of trigger a special event permit by still having it in there.
I think if you were requesting a bonfire, it was going to be a big fat rejected anyway. I don't think the police chief, or the fire chief is going to approve anybody having a
But it
bonfire.
would trigger the need to start
Right.
having the conversation.
We could have Burning Man West.
Great, great.
So, back to the numbers.
Yeah. I think the application should at least include,
The application absolutely should, because I think that's an important discussion.
and the size of the property, because unlike
Yes.
most people, again, I'll be up there in front saying, the size of the property absolutely matters
Yes.
compared to how many people.
And
Somebody on a
honestly,
quarter
once-
of an acre lot, having 200 people in their backyard may be problematic. Somebody having 200 people on 5 acres is a whole lot different density and a whole lot different effect on the neighborhood.
Mhm.
The
And-
problem is the where on 5 acres are they having it? Like, I think you can.
Well, I think there's
Because you could have a huge event on a very small piece of your 5 acres right next to your abutters and have just as much impact as if you had had a small piece of.
I think there's the parcel size, and I think there's the event area size.
The event area
And I think
size.
those two things kind of go together. Because if you have 5 acres and your event area size is 4.5 acres, it's different
You
than
could have 4.5
if you have
acres
100
small.
acres and your event area is 20 acres.
Well, it should, and I agree, to capture that, we should say usable. It has to be
Yeah.
usable area. Like, you can't have 5 acre property and 4 acres of it is, wetlands, and nobody can be there.
But how many people do you think actually know how much usable area they have in their land?
Most.
I think most
Sure.
people have a good idea of, and I don't think that anyone.
I'd say most people don't have wetlands on their property. The majority of people in town don't have wetlands.
No, but
Are there
I'm
a
not,
number?
I'm-
Sure.
I guess what I'm saying is how much land is clear as far as what you're gonna use for an event. If someone had to estimate how big is an acre, how big
Go
is,
on the town GIS and measure an area.
Yeah,
I think
I mean,
most
you
people are
can, you
pretty
can,
aware.
you can
their
even
property.
ballpark out a measured area.
and you think most people filling out this application will know that?
Yes, especially if
Okay.
they're hosting a big event, I think they'd have an understanding of how they were going to.
Or we can help them get there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We're here to help.
So I just want
I
to make sure that, not, taking Mrs. Adams' point, that yes, you don't want to say, okay, I have 5 acres, but I'm going to pen in all these people in this area. Sure, that would not be a good thing. So you have to tell us how many people and over what area are you going to be using? And that'll come out in the plan anyway, because they have to give us a site plan at that point.
All right, and that's, you're saying in the application, not.
Yeah, and I think once you all say we like this policy, we're good with the licensing policy as it is, I'll submit you a draft application for you to pull the red pen out.
Well, I still think that something on category B should be, if an event is projected to be over, 100 people, regardless of what property it's on. That should be one of the
That was going to
criteria.
be my suggestion, is
Yeah.
picking a number and
Yep,
saying,
over 100.
if it's over this.
I think that makes sense. If it's a gigantic event, then
Right.
it's different.
You're saying adding that in here?
As a category B checkpoint. If you're projecting having over at one particular time, over 100 people, that gets checked as yes. And that'll be one of the 7 criteria.
I'm fine with it. Because it's being category B, it doesn't automatically.
Right, it doesn't automatically.
If you do the other thing, you didn't have many people.
I was just gonna say, I think at the top, under the definition, or before people get started, we should say, well, I'm just saying that just because some people might get
might interpret it as my event has less than 100, therefore it's less likely a special event, but it still could very likely be. Do you see what I'm saying? So if I'm just doing this for the first time and filling it out, and I'm thinking that the yeses are triggers, and I get to the 100-person one, are you having over 100? Well, no. It starts to lead you to believe that if you have less than 100, it's not a special event. I don't think the amount of people.
I was going to say 100 is going to be like the last one on the list.
Right.
Just because.
But if I'm having a big event for 50 open to the public,
It's still a point system.
Is
It's
it
not,
any
it's about as clear as you get.
yeah.
And I'm realizing that I have town building in B and town property in A, so I'm wondering if we should just take town building out of B.
So it already would have been
Well, I think
triggered.
buildings are different.
Different than
Yeah, I
property.
think buildings are
Okay.
different than property, sure.
Right.
Yeah, because, again, gazebo, you know, Memorial Drive, those are areas, those are actual real estate properties,
Sure.
whereas buildings.
So here's an example. I'm just trying to think of times where you would come up with not triggering the 7 or whatever. I'm having an event that maybe has amplified music for 90 people.
So you have music,
No alcohol, no
You
food, no
have
animals, no inflatables.
electricity.
So I've triggered electricity. I've triggered amplified music.
No sanitary facilities.
Well, I'm just trying to
No
think of how
mechanical
often
rides.
you, what,
I'm just thinking, I mean, 90 people and amplified music, you gotta have something to do.
nope, just listen.
Right.
But I'm just trying to think of like how many special events won't trigger it potentially.
Well, is that
Well, I think
really a
that's the point.
special event?
No, I'm
though?
just playing devil's advocate
Right.
to our own policy. I'm not being confrontational.
No, I
I'm just saying
understand.
that a lot of special events might not fall into this new system.
Right,
But still be a
I think
special
there would be
event.
a,
So we might be creating something highly intensive to capture something that we uncapture something. And what's the consequence of that?
But what's there to review then?
right.
If it's just amplified music for a couple hours, there's no Board of Health
Well,
involvement.
that's my question.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I think, I don't want to capture too much. I'd rather.
And
I
you're
mean-
doing it on private property.
Yeah, what's the big deal?
Right, so
Can't
that's something
penalize
that you should
people
be able
for
to do at
having
your
big
house, I think
families,
people
which is
would
something I
say.
said
Well, it's
the
open
last
to the
time around.
public
Yes, but it's on private property.
for 90 people.
So you're having the
on private
Wiggles
property.
come and 90 kids are gonna come and
Buy
dance in the
tickets.
backyard. Well, buy tickets checks another one.
Well, I
So
think,
that's three.
well, I did have this, my second
No, but
thing-
maybe 3 is the number, or maybe, because,
Well, this is the other thing I would trigger. We said at the preamble of this that we're saying that it's open to the general public. We're making that criteria in there. And I would probably make a point, to your point, because I think if what Mrs. Adams said about that hypothetical event would have happened more than 7 times a year, I know a certain person who works for the town who might say, you know what? That's against zoning. You can't have people parking for 7 days a year, you know, with amplified music and 90 people to open to the public. So, one of the ways I looked at in my way of taking it out is take out that open to the general public and then say that makes it category A. If it's open to the public, period, it's a special event.
Oh, but you said it was a ticketed event, didn't you?
No, she said,
no, I eventually thought I would sell tickets to it, just to see.
Well, once
like,
you
as-
sell tickets, that triggers it, because that's a category A.
Did we make that an A for
Yes.
sure? So
Yeah.
that's good, so then there's more ways, but
so I would say the preamble, I would say put in category A, anything that's open to the general public without invitation. Right? That means you can just show up and you can come.
Well, in that case.
But then we go back to
Okay,
where
go
we
back.
always
Okay,
were.
hold- But then in that case, why don't we strike everything from, everything in black in the first category and just say, a permit for a special event
Yes,
is required,
I
but an
agree.
item in category A
Yep.
is answered yes,
And I
and
would
add
agree.
open to the general public on private property.
Well, category A would be right.
But then everything goes away and we go back to what we had before we had this checklist.
No,
No.
no,
I
because
don't know if
checklist
I don't know if I fully understand what you're suggesting.
What I'm saying is that,
So he's suggesting the first sentence
Yep.
gets deleted.
It's
Okay.
stricken.
And then, as a check box within category A, will the event be open to the general public?
Right. That's category A.
A yes
If you check that, so in
triggers the
your, in
special
your
event.
case,
But
that
yard
would
sales.
automatically trigger a
Yard
special event.
sales are open to the general
What?
public. Yard sales are open to the general public.
Lemonade stands.
Okay, so we move it down to, oh yeah, we could put it in a category
I-
B.
You
I
could
think
add
we
an
have to
exemption for a
define-
yard sale, but.
I think we have to define special event, and as I said, I think we're doing good so far without this recent suggestion.
No, I want to get it right. I mean, it's
But I
important.
think one thing I said last time, and I'll say it again, is I think that we have to, we're not trying to regulate what people do on their own properties with them and their families. And we have to account for the fact, I would be the first to say that my mother is the fifth of 13 children. I have 50-something first cousins. Once you add in my second cousins, we're at so my family alone, just my grandmother down is 200-something people.
That's private event.
It is. And so that's why I want to make sure that the people with really large, abnormally large, not that I would ever invite my family over my house that big, by the way, but but some people may, they may like their relatives a lot and want them over. So I want to make sure that those types of people never get caught up in all this.
I feel like we're heading back, Adam, to a time where I ask questions about, and I guess I'd have to double check, but like there's certain events that defining open to the public starts to become confusing, because if it's a private organization, but it's open to the public within its association or something, there's
Well, and I
wording
think
for that
the
in
exemption
there.
for that says that
It's at the end.
homeowners associations located on common property held by said associations and for its membership.
Okay.
I would be for the change of taking out that first line, putting it open to the public, with the addition at the end that we list the known. And as Mrs. Adams said, we can always change the policy, but we list a known number of exemptions. Yard sales and garage sales would be known exceptions. You don't need a special permit for that. Weddings wouldn't be because they're totally private. So what other events do people have on their property?
Lemonade stands.
Lemonade stands, art galleries, art showings. If you live there, the artist wants to show their work. So art open houses. These are kind of things I think that, we can choose as exemptions that are clear. But that would capture, and I think we want to capture your hypothetical, that if you have amplified music with 90 people and you have no other services except that, if you started doing that 7 times a year, 8 times a year, your neighbors could start taking exception.
No, the art one, I'm not sure, like,
So, and I think that would fall, rather than calling it art gallery, I would call it a home occupation, because we have a fairly generous home occupation.
Yep.
And artists who are selling their work and showing their work are using that as a job. And so I would class home occupations under that function as opposed to specific to art. And I think that's, I know that there's at least one woman in town who conducts her art and on a regular basis has people come through her house to view her gallery and see her work and do that kind of stuff. And that to me
You want to
falls.
list it as that? That's
Yeah.
fine.
Now, here's a question. If we exempt yard sales, which I think that we just need to have a policy that doesn't include yard sales, but if we exempt yard sales, what about the person who has a yard sale every day? I mean,
Well, then that's a commercial business. And
Right, but
becomes a zoning issue.
that falls into zoning.
I like your addition to A as I go through my hypothetical, because I could have animal rides open to the public all the time, only trigger, no charge, constant in and out traffic, parking lot. I'm running some, so. But I could be in a situation, in a property where I'm not allowed to have that as my business.
Right, but what he's saying is that would trigger a zoning violation.
But you said you're not charging. Because if you were charging, you'd get.
I'm just trying to think
well,
of
if you were
times where
charging,
I'm
you'd
doing
get-
something disruptive but not triggering the need
Yeah.
for this process.
So I own a pony, and every kid who wants to can come over and ride it for free.
Open
Right.
to the public, nonstop.
What's wrong with that? I mean, I don't see the conflict.
Well, if you're the neighbor and people are coming
It's
in.
not- but if you-
These are just for fun.
Clearly, there's something that will bother a neighbor, but when you look at the
Yeah,
criteria of what you're asking someone to submit in this application, that type of thing is.
Well, the chair had said running through ideas, and that's what I'm just trying to think of in a neighborhood and things. Are there times where we would wish to trigger something? And
Everyone
we
will
are
find a
not?
reason to be annoyed by their neighbor at some point.
Yeah.
I don't want to give them a document to have them all show up here to complain about it.
Thank you. And I'm opposed to adding and opening the general public up here, because one thing I mentioned the last time we talked about this is if I want to get a bus and go into Boston and say whoever wants to jump on this I'll come to my house and enjoy the day, that is fully within my right to do that. And I don't think that, and I think it's quite a step for us to say that it's not within someone's right to do that.
It might be a private event depending upon how you.
If you're
operate
selecting the
it.
people and they can't
No,
just
if I
show up.
just said a bus is parked on corner of Washington Street and Columbia Road, and whoever gets this 50 seats and whoever wants to get on it can get on it, and they come to my house and I cook for them and we have a good time, that's no one's
I think
business.
you're basically having a cookout, and I don't think anybody would get involved.
But it's the general public. And I think that once, now if my neighbor saw that there was a bus showing
Open
up
to the
every
general public
Saturday.
would mean, could you, forget about having people on a limited size bus. If you could say, anybody who wants to show up can show up at my house, and we're gonna have music. Right? That, where you don't know the people, you're inviting people to come in who you don't know, to be an event, to be at an event. You are creating an event of which you have no control over who comes. If you have control over who comes at any regard, like a bus, if you're gonna send 25 buses, maybe it gets to be different.
So what happens then if you have tickets that you don't have to pay for, but I'm just gonna give you tickets, so that way you do have now control over who comes? And
Well, there's ways around everything, right?
And so now that's no longer open to
But
the
you might be,
public.
then it's private, and it doesn't trigger the
Right.
trigger.
I mean, there's ways around everything. Sure, you could say that I don't want the general public, I only want people by invitation, but if anybody wants an invitation, send me a private message on Facebook and I'll give you an invitation. Sure, you could do that. I mean, I argue with you at that point that you could do that now.
Yeah.
I don't think the general public thing is a category A for me, because I can think of circumstances where they'd have nothing to submit for us to review. There just wouldn't be a big enough application.
Right, but it would count, the only reason I would say that is because it would count against the number, because we're limiting the number that we're gonna give people. So it would count against that at that point. That would be the one thing that I would say why you'd wanna capture it.
So they couldn't be open to.
Are all three of you guys in favor of limiting the number? I'm not, but are the three of you guys all, is that something we're doing?
Favor of?
Adding in the number 100 people, as we said?
But that's not what we're.
No, you just referenced it. I was
No,
just
well,
curious.
first, there were two things. First of all, yeah, let's deal with the number. Is anybody for or against adding the number, anything as a category B, that you're over 100 people? Expecting over 100 people?
I'm not for it.
I'd be fine with that.
I don't mind having extra triggers, because we'll set them up.
So let's put that in.
That's just, at least that's a scale.
Yep, okay. So then, the second thing is, do we take take the first sentence out of the preamble, the all in black, and put that the event is open to the general public as a category A, or category B? If you don't, either choose one or say, no, you don't think it should be part of it at all, so.
I think that the task, I don't think we should. I think the task last time, the main task that we, I think, gave to Mr. Bernie was to define special event. And I think that we need to keep that definition there. That, yes, there's a checklist that covers all, but I think there needs to be a summarized version of what is a special event.
I like it the way it is now. You might be able to sway me if you're going to put it in category B, but I don't think it belongs there.
Because it's in the definition, I don't have a problem with it being an A, because it's the whole point of the policy, is to capture a couple of these basic things. And then I think, to your point, that we're trying to capture redundancies of events, so you have to trigger it to capture it. If you didn't trigger it, then it would just keep happening. I think this is all coming about to try to be consistent and make sure that everybody in a residential area feels like they have control over their environment
And I think if we don't capture things we're trying to capture, then this is a wheel that's been spinning for a year.
Could I convince the people who are against it if I changed it slightly and said, it's open to the general, as a category A, open to the general public and expecting more than 100 people? That both of them in one sentence.
I don't support the numbers. You might grab Damon on that one.
That means one checkbox and one line.
I like adding the number because then it takes away people's concerns.
Well, it'll still
of
be in
wanting to
category, oh, you're talking
gather
about
up.
editing, yeah.
I like it in a category A either way. I think adding the number is fine because it goes to the nature of trying to prevent what we're trying to prevent.
Well, we have it in B, we're not gonna,
Yeah, I know.
everybody voted that. This would be an automatic trigger.
That would be, yes, I understand what you're
Yeah,
saying.
no, I'm trying to, I'm doing my not
Best
so
salesman.
best statement.
And sometimes you get a tough customer.
I know. How many customers
Yeah, I already
support
said I
that?
don't buy it.
How do we feel about the combination of 7 items? Because I'd be more comfortable having it in B if the trigger number was lower.
And, yeah, I think we're gonna get to that too. I agree. 7 may be really high for me. Especially since we've removed, since some of these are just gonna be one category now because we've taken out the sub-options. But before we do that, so can I convince you on that? No. Okay.
So 7 would be,
Let me dial into the list.
Exactly.
7 would be like 47% of the options in category B.
Yeah, I think.
Because there's 15.
Even
So
with
I
the
would probably,
chambers?
I would probably
Well,
say.
we dropped one and we added.
I would probably say 5 myself. If you have 1/3 of the items.
Sure, and
Do you have any feeling about this one way or another? I realize it's a policy thing, it's not your thing.
Would
but
you
I'm
put it
gonna
in
ask you
category?
anyway. Or would you go behind the box where Carol Merrill is now?
it's quieter than usual down there.
And I have 2 atoms all night.
What? Oh.
Oh, yeah, yes.
With two
It's-
different
it's
color shirts,
very
if that's
weird
possible.
Watching yourself on television.
Yeah.
It's a time warp.
No, there.
Part of the purpose for this license, permit, whatever you want to call it, was also for the town departments to be prepared for events as well. So when there were large events, the police weren't scrambling to get coverage for details or for a excessive amount of calls that they're getting, or the fire department wasn't responding to emergencies, without the proper personnel on staff. So that was another purpose. So I think having enough triggers in category B that cover all those departments, that's what, the lens I'm looking at it from, is to make sure as a town we're responding appropriately when we can and making sure our public safety needs are met. But
And I think a lot of that concern can also be redundantly added to the application or be more comprehensively addressed in the application, because this is just what someone's going to look at. They're not actually handing this to anybody. So I think replicating this checklist in the application, as well as adding some other things about the activities and getting a better description of what events to kind of address what you're referencing with the town departments, I think is important in the application.
And I think Adam said this maybe last year when we started this, something like that. But this will help somebody have an event. And we've seen recently people trying to have events, running out of time to have the event. So I think once this is done, rather than just thinking of it as a preventer or a trigger, it should be an asset to somebody having an event. And part of that would be having everything they need in a timely manner so they don't find out they can't have it. So I think triggering this almost as a benefit to some people, because if you don't trigger it and then you run up against the realization you should have triggered it, you might not be able to have your event.
Right.
So I think triggering it almost is a good thing. If you try to fall between the cracks of not triggering it and then all of a sudden we realize there's a public health situation that's going to be need to met or something, then they're going to run out of time to have their event. So I feel like it benefits people to need this for most of the events. I think when we look for highly unlikely hypotheticals where
And we're all, you know, I like to do that, but we're making it more complicated. Like, I feel like most people would want to go through this process for the type of events they're trying to have. And I feel like what Heather just said supports putting the chair's recommendation into A, because the more this process is triggered, the more it benefits the person trying to have the event. If it's open to the public, chances are there's going to be a public health situation or a public safety situation, and we're going to want them to meet the permit so that they can get the ball rolling, so they have their event.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine not changing that last part, and we can see how that works. I would say, again, I would say that 5 instead of 7 out of the 15 would be a good trigger.
How do people feel about that?
5 instead of 17?
5 instead of 7.
I think that works well.
7, but I can do 5.
All right.
5
So let's go to
You're
5.
flexible then, Damon.
Now, we talked about, so are we set with that checklist? Because it sounds like, I believe we are, unless somebody has something that they didn't,
Did category A change? I didn't miss.
no, there was no,
Okay.
no.
Would you add anything to B based on things that you come across?
No, I think Adam did a good job covering all the potential scenarios with the various departments.
Just going down in the next paragraph after the checklist, I just want to talk about the number of events. I think, personally, I think 4 is way too restricted. Personally, I'd like to see at least 6 with the criteria, as it says in red at the bottom of that, but I would change it instead of no 2 multi-day events, like well, I guess we can leave it multi-day events, that if, of the regular day events, that no 3 can happen within a 90-day period. So, I mean, you can't have 3 all bunched up together.
But you said that you think that 2 is too restrictive?
No, I think, no, 4 is too restrictive. 2 multi-day events, I'm fine with. Multi-day events, a totally different category to me.
Okay.
It's way more disruptive to a neighborhood.
Yeah.
But 4-day events, if you want to have something from 9 to 5 on a Saturday, or 9 to 8 on a, 9 to 9 on a Saturday, 6 days a year, that, you know, what is that? 1/60th of a, I don't even know what that is.
It is,
percentage.
but I think that the issue that I know I raised last time was our holidays, though, are not evenly spread out throughout the year.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when you get into the summertime, you have, you know, May, big holiday, July, big holiday, September, big holiday. And I don't think it's reasonable that a neighbor should have to endure your special events during all those major days. And so that's what I think we were trying to avoid here with the 4 days.
I would be open to going to the 6 if we left it with the no 2 had some multi-day events. I would restrict the clumping of even
Right.
single-day events.
Right, that's, I did, I would have in my suggestion, I
Okay.
did. I would say no,
Because-
we leave the 2 multi-day events, would have to be more than 90 days
Somebody could do every
apart.
Saturday for the peak of summer.
Yeah.
And no 3
amplify
single-day
their
events can be
music.
within a 3-month period. That means they have to be spaced so that whatever 3-month bracket you use, you never hit 3 events.
Or I would go with 2 if we're gonna go up to 6.
So how are we?
Two would space them every 60 days. So if you're gonna have 6, the furthest you can get them apart is every 2 months.
So how are you proposing?
If they're evenly spaced.
What's the language that you're suggesting?
So my language would be, well, the easy one is changing 4 to 6.
But
Then,
to keep
the
the
last
spacing.
part, so after this, no 2 multi-day events may be conducted on the same property with less than 90 days separating the events, and no 3 single-day events may be conducted at the same property with less than 90 days, in a bracketed window of 90 days.
No 3.
Right, that means you can't put 3 in 3 months. They have to be spaced so that they're further away. So 91 days, you know, but, because if you go to 6, its average is 1 every 2 months. So I'm saying that you can't put them all in the summer. You can't have 4 in the summer.
Are you open with 2 days within 2 events within 90 days as well?
Well, that
but
takes away the.
Then you don't have
6 total.
6, then you can't
Yeah,
possibly
yeah,
have
yeah.
6.
Well, yeah, then you drop to 6.
Right, no,
You're
I,
insisting on
6 is
6.
reasonable.
For the magnitude of these events, I'm comfortable with 4. Because, what else are we, I don't know.
Well, some of them aren't great magnitudes, I think. I mean, some of them are.
I'd much prefer 4, and no more than 2 within 60 days, 90 days.
These are open to the public events, and that should be considered a fairly rare occurrence for residential property.
But I mean, yes, it should be.
And 4 gives people the ability to do it without exploiting the peace and quiet of what maybe other people hope for in the neighborhood.
I would be inclined to go with 6, but
So we have to.
just because the attitude we were just taking earlier, trying to get things to fall in the bucket so we can control how many times it happen a year, now capturing more things and limited how many times it happens, so.
And also, if we found that tons of people were coming in for their 5th, we could always change the policy.
So the language you'd say is no 3 events within 90 days.
Right.
And that's your way of making sure that you don't hit
you
Memorial
can't just
Day
bunch
and
everything up.
4th of July and Labor Day.
So you
get
can't
2.
say, oh, I don't want to have them in the winter. Of course I don't want to have them in the winter, so I'm going to put them all in, in 120 days. And I'm going to put all 6. Well, no, you can't do that.
We need more winter events.
What?
We need more
I
winter
agree
events.
with you. I agree with you. So, I mean, again, I would leave it up there. Sounds like we have a 2 and 2, and
I'm movable.
okay.
So
All right, let's do 5. Okay.
5 is better than 4.
5 is better than 4. I can sign on to the last part of that. Oh, can we agree to 5?
Sure, I can agree with 5. Sure.
Okay.
Go to 5.
We're good at
Compromise. Right. Hey, it's all about discussion. I think.
And no 3 single-day events may be held in a span of
Within a span of
90 days.
right?
90 calendar days, right?
Yep, 90 calendar days, yes.
what other, oh,
As opposed to business.
business days.
But
Which of course no one would ever go for, right?
There are a few things that I did notice that I missed somehow. 60 should say 90 in 2 paragraphs down from where we just were. So they're filing 90 days ahead of time.
Yes.
So I don't.
And I also think I said this last time, we have to be able to get them an answer. Like,
Yes, and that was what changed the 60 to 90.
Right.
You wanted to be able to have.
Right.
And on page 5 now, the last sentence should read, failure to obtain a license, multiple and/or repeated violations may result in a prohibition from applying for future permits for the
Where are we
event
looking,
organizer.
where are we looking on page 5?
Under enforcement, the last
Okay,
sentence
gotcha.
of the first paragraph. So it would say failure to obtain a license, multiple and/or repeated violations may result in a prohibition.
Okay.
Because
Good.
we talked about that the
Yep,
last time, and
yep. All right. I think if we can get that to us,
And would you like waivers added in or not? Per my suggestion earlier, for events that may not cover the full breadth of it, but may be triggered? Or do you want to just leave it as it is and not worry about adding another?
the only thing I feel we should have a waiver on would be the fee.
And you can do that anyway. You don't need that added in here.
I mean, that's
That-
my own personal feeling.
That's
mean,
fine. I just wanna make
Again, if
sure
we talk
that-
about that prayer thing, that because they want to do it, it's a private organization on public land, they want to
Yeah.
reserve it, sure, you have to apply for one. There's nothing going to be to submit to us,
Sure. Okay.
and it's just a matter of, okay, it's more like scheduling at this point.
And we're not adding any further exemptions.
Is there, go ahead.
So you were for the waiver part of it,
For the fee, not for,
Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, they still have
You're
to-
saying adding in language.
There's nothing,
I hear what you're saying. which
they
can
were
go
just
out
put
of
not
that.
applicable, site access, I mean,
Sure.
yeah, they have to put
well, only
parking
some
on.
things are applicable.
Yeah, you know what I mean. If they're not applicable, you put not applicable. If they are, then there's no reason not to put them.
So we've often used the prayer event as an example tonight. Is there a situation where, since we have in category A as a natural trigger, is the event requesting the use of town property and we don't want to over-trigger the permits? And it could say but does not, if you do not capture anything in category B. Because go through the category Bs as the prayer event, nothing's triggered. So then that might be the type of event that we could say, if you trigger, is the event requesting town property, but do not trigger anything in category B, see the town manager. And then all the events that currently go through Heather could stay with Heather. And then if it triggers something in B, well, then it's probably gone beyond the type of events that we are used to allowing.
I think that addresses a lot of the concerns that I had.
Yeah, that'd be-
Things falling to the pot, but there's nothing to review.
Are we sure that the National Prayer doesn't use any mechanical rides or inflatables? Because I think I remember something last time.
Because there, that way then, the coat drive, there's a lot of things that we just automatically, and then we're consistent, because if
Yeah, so they're
you
just using the
trigger
land.
that in A, but
Right.
you do not trigger
I
anything
think I'm
in
perfectly
B,
fine with that. I don't know where
see the
we'd
town
put
manager.
that, but I'm perfectly fine with that.
Right under, is the event requesting town property? And then like somewhere in that question say, but
And, okay,
As an
put,
exemption.
and at least one item in,
yes.
in category B. There you go.
there you go. And then that leaves a lot of the simple things that we're used to doing,
Yep.
leaves well enough alone, and we don't
Yeah, I
create
think that's
new
good.
problems.
Sure.
Because all of a sudden we won't have coat drives, because people will say, oh, that paperwork looks scary, so then we might actually.
All right, I'm okay with this. If we
Okay.
can get this, so, I'm not in next week, and then we have no meeting next after that. So if we can get this ready for our August thing to review and have any last comments, and hopefully the first or second week in August, we can finalize this, that'd be great.
Can we do it August 6th with earth removal permits?
Absolutely. Earth removal, special permit.
That would be great.
Are we
Our earth
keeping
remo-
this-
Our earth removal's open to the public.
And we started this when? Last August.
Probably.
Are we
Here's-
keeping this font?
Do you not like it?
The font.
It's like so
Really?
1984.
Really? We're gonna talk about the font now? Okay, we're going on.
I'm
It was
comfortable.
time to
Give you
move
Times New
on.
Roman if that's what you want.
Yeah, thank you. No.
Do you, one comment I did have, the public hearing process.
Yes.
Um,
On what page?
I'm just thinking, it's on page 2,
Okay,
bottom of page 2.
yes.
Just the onus of the expense that's for all the range of applicants that you could have for this, what that cost will be for advertising twice in the paper, notifying all the abutters. Just, if there's any way we can shrink that a little bit and still
Yeah.
provide, sufficient notification without, putting too much of expense on
I don't know
the
what-
applicant.
You advertise in the ledger.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
Yeah, it's
less
reasonable.
expensive.
Yep.
And then the notification, it only needs to be regular mail.
Right.
But that's only, well, depends how you do it. The planning board, we notify, and we do it by regular mail because we're the ones sending it out, so we know that we've complied with sending it to all of the abutters.
Right.
I certainly don't want to put more on your executive assistant. I also don't know how many of these you'll do a year and how many abutters each one's gonna have. But I would say our average abutters cost is less than $30 because.
Well, it says here that the select board will arrange for the publication and transmission of the notice to the abutters.
Correct.
And the cost will be billed to the applicant.
Yeah, and what we do is we tell
So
them to
therefore,
bring
we
in-
know we've sent them.
Yeah, we tell them to bring in stamped envelopes that match the unique
Yeah, there you go.
abutters on the
So that makes sense.
list, and then we stuff the envelope and send it out.
I mean, the only thing I could see is that maybe you don't have to do two publications of notice, maybe just one.
And maybe you don't have to do 300 feet.
Right.
Yeah, and if I can just check with Elaine, I believe,
Well,
because
300
we've
feet,
had
I mean, how
our
many
green
people
cards
could
delivered
possibly-
to meetings, so I believe the applicant's responsible in a lot of scenarios
Okay.
to do the mailings, and they provide the green cards
And
to
that-
show that it was
Yeah.
sent
and
out.
And that can be policy or general law. I don't
Right, depending
know.
on the hearing process.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so that's why, for a site plan, that's why we didn't do certified mail, because 16 times as expensive as a stamp. And that's why we send them, so we just know. And that's why I did it this way, because that's, exponentially less expensive than sending certified. But again, if you want, we can make it one publication and we can make it 100 feet instead of 300 feet.
How many 300 feet? I mean, how many people can we possibly be talking about in 300 feet?
Well, it's a butter to a butter,
20.
so it depends where it is.
I agree, but still 300 feet, even in the most dense neighborhood, what are we talking about? 30 houses?
Unless you live next to the
I
complex.
If you
mean,
live next to
Well,
Stone Farm or the Woodlands or one of those,
It's a
you
lot
get
of-
whacked.
Okay.
Across
Because
the
they're all
street from
individual
Whalen
owners.
Luxury,
What was that?
if you lived across the street from.
No,
Whalen,
that's a singular, that's a singular. That's a singular notice,
You just noticed.
because you notice the property owner.
Oh, okay.
Whereas like the Woodlands or Stone Farm, each individual unit is its own property owner, and
Right, that's what.
you can't notify the association, you have to notify the unit owners.
Well, we can change it to 200 feet. I mean, I'm fine with that.
I mean, it's up to you. I use 300 because that's kind of the gold
And
standard.
we could
for
say
me.
you only have to do it, advertise it once.
Yeah.
14 days before the hearing.
I would suggest 7.
7, that's what I meant to say.
People tend to forget.
I'm just saying we can
14.
eliminate one of them.
Yeah,
We don't have to
yeah.
advertise it twice.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
The only,
Oh,
I-
you do it.
I know. I just caught on the end of that, but sometimes though, like if someone's, like summertime, when most of the things are gonna happen, if someone's on vacation, they may not get that notice if it's only 7 days out.
Well, I mean, no matter what we do, there's always the other flip side, I guess.
Sometimes
We're not
people
going to
get
be
the notice and
serving
they just
people
throw it
with
away.
constables,
I
let's put
agree.
it that way.
I agree though.
And it'll all be posted as agendas and all those other
Right.
things.
I'm sure the
too.
neighbors would be yapping away about, can you believe this is happening?
Right.
And we're sticking with 300, or are we dialing that back too?
I can go back to 200, that's fine. It's from the edge of the property, right?
Yeah, so you take the property corners
Property
and you
lines.
draw a line out 200 feet and you draw a bubble, and anything that touches the bubble gets sucked in.
Sure. That sounds fine.
It's kind of blobbish.
Sounds good.
In computer programming, I love to deal with blobs. Excellent, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you. So as soon as you can get that to us, then we'll have time to review it, and Phyllis will be here, and the next time we're all here, that'd be good. And hopefully this will go on the books. Okay, town manager evaluation forms. And everybody should have their bulleted items. I have Phyllis's that I will hand out to everyone.
I was just about to comment on the fact that she had a lot of thoughts and she's not here.
All right, and everybody should have their own. So we're just limiting these to the bullet points in the evaluation. Am I correct in that? Right, everybody else was okay with the rest of it, just the bullet points. So one of the simple ways I thought we might do this, in an effort to make things simple, is one person will read them out, and then if that appears on at least 4 other people, because we have Phyllis's, then that would be one of the bullet points we keep. And then we'll go back and, I'm assuming we don't want more than like 5 per category. That's just an arbitrary number. If there are 2 that are so close, I don't want to I want to be able to run through this, because these are just suggestions about, or indications of what this category is that we're marking on. We're not marking on the bullet points directly. There's no score for each particular bullet point, just giving us a description of what this category is about. Does anybody have a problem with that methodology?
No.
All right, let's go. Mrs. Adams, if you would want to start, or if anybody else would want to start with individual characteristics. Which were your 4 that you'd like?
I think I like less words, so I like, I guess bullet 3, as you go down, displays enthusiasm, cooperation, willingness to adapt. The one under that exhibits composure, appearance, attitude appropriate for the position. The one under that, I guess the 4 that are there.
in a row. I like the way those.
Those first four, or the,
Well, no, it's
or the one on the other
starting
side?
with the fourth one down if you include the blue.
Okay. So, starting with displays enthusiasm all through maintains an open,
And basically then you create your bullets without, as I think everything seemed too verbose. I like those ones because they were short.
okay, so, let's just take one at a time. So, Phyllis and I don't have the displays enthusiasm. Anybody else have that one?
No, I agree with Phyllis on the first one.
Okay, well, we're going over
Ms.
Ms. Adams.
Ms.
Okay.
Adams.
So nobody had that one. Exhibits composure, appearance and attitude appropriate for executive position.
I have that.
You have that one. That's 2. I don't have, I and Phyllis don't have either one of those. All right. Treats others in a fair, consistent, impartial, and professional manner, is effective in dealing with people without arousing antagonism, and demonstrates an understanding of difficult situations. I have that one. Phyllis has that one.
I had only circled 2 of each, so.
All right, well, good. Well, all right, so let's go with that one. Are you following along? with it? Okay, good. So that one is definitely in. And your last one was the maintains an open approach, right?
What's that?
Your last one was maintains an open and approachable manner?
I was reading it,
So-
yes.
Okay, so
And I
Phil,
just have to say, overall, I would not debate any combination of these two, because I just think editing it is the goal. So I don't want to get caught up, like, I would trade one for another, because they really start to become redundant. So I like those 4 because they were short and sweet, but I would not debate to keep one over another.
Fair enough.
In this process. I think short.
so we're just doing this the most democratic way, which is going through it. So Phyllis has that, maintains one. Does anybody else have it?
Yes, maintains an open and approachable manner.
Okay, so that one's going to be in. Okay, Michael, which ones did you have that we didn't just discuss?
Organizes priorities and effectively handles a variety of, where's that one at?
All right, anybody else have that one?
Assignments.
Phyllis has that one. Okay, next. That is only 2.
That's it.
All right. Did you have another one that you said, or did we hit your 2?
I had the first one, it was dedicated to the highest idea of water.
Phyllis has that one, and I have that one as well. That's 3. Anybody against that one? Okay, so that gives us 3. Do you have any other one? And the only other one I had was proactively seek solutions and assumes responsibility.
Oh, that one's kind of good for number 2, the problem solving.
Okay,
And that
so
was one of the
that would
things I
not-
think that can be captured in the next.
Okay, so we're going with just those 3 then.
Which, so
The
the
first,
first one.
the first bullet, the first one on this other next page,
Yeah.
and the
The third
second one from the top on the second page, the maintains and open. So those 3. Unless we wanted to add a 4th one. Was there
I'm
one
sorry,
that had 2?
what were the ones that made the cut? You just said-
Bullet number 1, 5, and 6.
Maintains an open and proactively.
1,
seek-
4, and 5, not 6, sorry.
Got treats and maintains.
Oh, no, yeah, 1, 4, and 5.
And
Just 3 of
organizes
them.
didn't make the cut.
It did not. Again, if there's one in here that, again, to round it up at 4, I'm against, but I'm not looking to make it wordy either.
I think it'll be nice to read the edited version, and then something might jump out at us if we think there's something missing. It's
Sure. Okay.
hard to conceptualize.
So, Michael, you can start us off in number 2, problem-solving, decision-making. Which ones?
3, anticipates. Anticipates and analyzes problems to develop effective approaches for solving them.
Okay, I have that. Phyllis has that. Anybody else have that?
Yep.
All right. So
I
that,
mean, I had bullet 1
but I feel like that one says very much the same thing, so I would go with that one.
Okay.
Because it would be redundant to have.
Anticipates future needs, organizes work operations, establishes timetables.
Which one is that?
Next one. Right after. There's
We
two
moved it
anticipates.
from criteria to set.
Oh, anticipates future needs. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I chose that one too. So did Phyllis. Anybody else? Yes. Okay, so that one's in.
Third, anticipates stakeholder needs and attitudes, impacting policy procedures and responds appropriately.
Okay, I don't have that. And neither does Phyllis. Okay. Damon, what else did you have?
Knows when to take action and what type of action is appropriate.
I had that one.
I also.
Okay, we'll go with that one. Any other one? Or that?
No,
Okay. Mrs. Adams, do you have?
I think that covers a good edited version of number 2.
The only one I had was the first one, identifies and isolates problems and solutions, which Phyllis did not have. I don't know if anybody else had.
I originally had that as one, but I feel like it's repeated in the anticipates, analyze problems,
Okay.
identifying and anticipating very similar.
Phyllis has two ones that were not on the list, which is utilizes technological advances and adapts to changing standards. I think that, if I remember correctly, that's somewhere else. It uses the technology. How did anybody feel about that one?
No. Anything that has to do with problem solving or decision making.
Anybody else? Okay, and her last one, effectively allocates resources to provide service to the community by anticipating stakeholder needs and attitudes. So it's basically, it's the last bullet with an addendum at the with an extra piece at the beginning.
Yeah, I think her changes though puts it into organizational leadership.
Okay, does anybody feel like we want to?
Comfortable with the words in terms of it going under decision making, because in making the decisions to anticipate the needs.
That last one, that you're talking about, the effectively allocates?
Yeah, where she added that.
Because it is planning. I could get behind that one.
I think it reads okay.
How do you achieve it though? I mean, I don't want to get too weedy here, but I think that, what I struggle with just in Phyllis's additions is effectively allocates resources to provide service to the community by anticipating stakeholder needs. And so it's like, it almost becomes how good of a soothsayer are you? How good of a fortune teller are you?
I think allocating resources is an important decision. I think that's what she was trying to capture.
And I think you're leveraging the word anticipating, but we just chose two that talked about anticipating.
No, I agree with anticipating, but I think it's.
So anticipating stakeholder needs, I mean, I like the effectively allocates resources because it has to do with planning, this section as well. And I think it's the only piece that talks about that. Let's try new ideas.
I like to put it too, and I want her, she put her time into voicing her input, and I think that piece is good input.
Well, again, I don't want to choose it because she put input, but I agree that I like this and I'm for
And we
it.
couldn't have pre-chosen to use it
Right.
because we didn't have it, so
Is anybody against putting this in? Strenuously against putting this?
Against it, I would just swap.
Right.
I would take the wording and just reorganize it.
Into what?
Anticipating stakeholder needs and attitudes, what the impact of policy chooses and responds appropriately, and then I would just add in the effect of allocating resources as part of the list.
Well, he's saying by. So you basically just
It's the by.
take out the by and make it two sentences?
Yeah.
Is everybody okay with that? That does make it clearer. All right, so there we go. All right, so just take out the by and make it two sentences. And no capitalization, of course. All right.
So there's 3? Or-
4. There was 4, I think.
I got
I-
the 2 anticipates.
Yeah, no, that's right, three, sorry, you are correct. Basically, bullets, 3, well, there's one blank one. The 2 anticipates, and then the last,
Oh, the no's one to take action.
right,
Is
yeah,
the
that one
fourth?
too, yes, that's the
Okay.
4th one. I knew there was 4.
Okay.
Okay, professional skills and knowledge, Damon, what do you got?
2 that I felt strongly about were the first one,
Maintains knowledge, that's on mine, that's on Phyllis's, anybody else have that
Yes.
one?
My input on number 3 is I feel like it was already heavily edited, and I feel like it reads okay with the ones that survived the editing.
Okay, so you're okay with any of these as long as we keep?
They were all concise, and I thought it read okay.
Okay, so definitely number 1, what other one, Damon?
The other one was understands and implements long-range strategic plan.
Yes.
And I could sway that with any other ones.
All right, so the Phyllis had that, I didn't have that one, but that's fine.
Yeah.
So that one, the understands one. I had demonstrates skills in listening, speaking, and writing.
Phyllis had that too, and I
Yep.
think that's an important one in terms of professional skills.
No problem.
But it's similar to what I
Okay.
did have, which was
Yep.
conveys.
So let's include that one, demonstrates skill in listening. And the other one I had was has a full working knowledge of administrative and management systems and procedures. And so does Phyllis have that?
And I put that one read okay.
All right, so how about we do those 4? So basically, all the ones that are on Phyllis's. Okay, the next one is tricky because it's these 3 categories. There's a lot of bullets, but it only was in one category. So, all right, let's go. Mrs. Adams, we'll start with you again.
And this one, so much is combined, I didn't know how to pick 2. I feel like this was a hard way, or 4. I feel like this one was so consolidated, we just maybe rewrite it together.
So this one was from 4, 5, and 6.
So it used to be teamwork and leadership, staff effectiveness, and supervisory.
And I think it's good that we're going to really pare a lot of this down, so. Did you have any ones that you chose, or you didn't select any of the ones that were there already?
Well, with organizational leadership and management, I think item 1 would belong. I like calling out being neutral. I think that's a really important skill in the role. So the 3rd one down. But then I think,
He acts as a neutral party, you mean? Is that,
Yes.
okay.
and then some of the things that are there, I don't know if we would be, this came into part of our overall discussion, like managing the compensation and benefits plan. This falls into the category of, do we know it's being done, or how would we know it's being done? And I think that's something Phyllis talked a bit about.
Sure.
Is items like that, I think we remove if we can't directly at this current time know whether or not that's happened. And that might go for almost all of them in some way. This one's a tricky question overall. It's hard for us to oversee all the things that it's asking for because it's employee relations, really. And we're not really a part of that.
Although I do ask.
No, but I think to
But
Phyllis's
it's hard to
point is we
know.
don't have a specific avenue to acquire this information.
Yeah, but I think that's, okay, so I'll
I
make the
agree.
difference between the fact that you don't know that we can judge her on this, but what are the criteria anyway, even if, I mean, the criteria should be known. If we were able to know, what would the criteria be for this category? I mean,
It's just hard to do the review if we can't find the data to support it, to the positive or negative, and this is supposed to be our review. I think we struggled with some of that when we went through it this time, is some of the things it's asking. If we don't have them as part of our, or tool to know the information, then having it in the review makes it hard to review.
yeah, but I think the body last week went through this and defined that we did want that as a category, because we approved that as a category.
Yes.
Yep. To that, to speak to just the point that you brought up about the manager's compensation benefits plans, is oftentimes I've spoken last year about benefit plan changes and reported to the board on those items, as well as compensation. At the town meeting, there was a review of all the salary administration plan. That was a wage survey done as part of that review. So those are examples of such. So they are known to you either by reporting or town meeting action.
I see what you're saying, that it does, in terms of, like, I'm looking at seeks to foster the high morale, and you talked about bringing, you know, the luncheons and things like that. So we will see bits and pieces of that are
Well, I did choose that one, and I suggested in my own notes that we combine that with one, just make it 2 sentences, one bullet with the one above it. So develops and executes sound personnel procedures and practices, seeks to foster high morale and cohesiveness among employees. If we can make that one bullet. I don't know how people feel about that. On under 5, right here, right, these two. Develops and seeks.
I think that's good. I only had 3 here anyway, so.
Fine with that. I didn't have it, but I'm fine with that.
So am I.
You okay with those two being one? Okay, so develops and seeks would be 1. So which do you have?
So I had the professionally manages the compensation and benefits plan.
Where's?
Right above.
Right above it.
Okay,
Yeah, they just said this one that we can measure.
okay. Does anybody,
No, I didn't have that.
just looking at Phyllis's? Nope, she didn't have it. And you didn't have it?
some of Phyllis's are new.
Oh, no, she hasn't, I think. Because I had 2 of them.
No, it looks like
Yeah.
contains, nope. It looks like, I think she put her new ones in the capital letters.
Yeah.
So these were all here, these were all part of the three groups. So which one did you have? Oh, did you have another one?
Under number 6, what was number 6? Applies an appropriate level of supervision to improve any areas of substandard performance. Just meaning that there's other people
Yep.
under her, so certainly an appropriate level of what she should be involved in.
What was that, Damon?
The second available bullet starts with applies under section,
Okay.
the old section 6. I don't think anybody else has.
Phyllis had the last bullet under number 5. too.
Right, yeah.
Yep, okay.
So it doesn't look like there's a lot of overlap because there was a lot of.
Yeah.
A lot of
Which-
Well, I have a lot of
bullets.
Phyllis.
Which two do you have?
I have,
What 4
3.
do you have? Sorry.
I only picked
Yep.
3 on this one. Phyllis's, well, not Phyllis's, but the ones, since we're looking at Phyllis's form, it's
Yep.
easier to see it. Builds cooperation and consensus among within diverse groups.
All right, hold on a second. Okay.
The last one she had on the first page, effectively plans, organizes, and delegates.
Which one is that one? Effectively
Effectively plans, organizes, and delegates work.
Yeah, I do have that one. And so that's 3. Does anybody,
And then
is there a 4 for that one?
for me, it was encourages. That's how let me go back up and find that.
High level performance.
Yeah, that's what it said.
I'm fine with both the builds cooperation and the effectively plans.
Okay, so the effectively plans is the first bullet under 6, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let's put that one, because I think there's consensus on that. And what was the other one?
The other one I'm looking for, it's, the first one was the builds cooperation.
Under number
Yeah,
4.
and I can go with that one.
And then the other one was encourage, that's it, it's 5, first bullet. Encourages development of high-level performance of staff throughout the organization.
And I had that one, that's 2. I don't know if anybody else.
I think that one reads fine.
Okay, so that's 3. Is that fine with that one? All right, so that first one in number 5.
I think we have 3 of us that said builds cooperation and consensus under number 4.
Okay, let's go through the ones we chose here. So the builds cooperation from number 4. That's one of them. Then from number 5, encourages development. That's 2. Then we go to the one the development seeks one. Those are going to be combined, so that'll be bullet 3. Effectively plans will be bullet 4. Is that everything?
Thanks.
4?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of content in there.
Yep.
I
We took to heart your paring down.
Yeah, no, I think it's good, but I don't have a problem with Phyllis including the maintains a consistently high level of quality in staff work, operational procedures, and service delivery facilitates organizational improvements.
I'm personally not against that either. But people want to put in the 5th.
I wanted to advocate again for the managing of the compensation and benefits plan, because it has a
Huge financial
yeah,
impact.
financial impact for the town.
Which
And
one
it
is that
something
one?
that has
Okay, so
come
let's
up,
put that one in.
Heather said.
I can
Is
see
everybody okay with that one?
Yes.
So professionally manages the compensation and benefits plan. Even though you're soon going to get somebody who does it for you.
Which means she'll do good.
They're just point. Look, talk to them. Okay, number 7.
Or 5, yeah.
Yes, number 5. I'm sorry. Yes.
So,
7 is crossed out.
I think, hold on, right?
Yeah, I
All
think
right,
you're up.
everything but the first one. So the last 4.
Everything but the first
Yeah,
one.
so
Okay.
skipping demonstrates and understands the basic principles of service delivery. The one below that determines.
Okay, so let's do one at a time. One at a time. So determine citizens' need. You're fine with that one?
Say again?
Determine citizens' needs.
No, yes.
Okay, so are you okay with it?
Citizens needs. Sure, I didn't have it, but
Sorry.
Okay. So
Is your,
The
one of your people to the
It's a friend, she's in high school, and I encouraged her to come. I just wanted to make sure she had a ride.
the third bullet under number 5, determines citizens' needs and provides responsive, equitable services to the community.
This was one of the ones that I feel like it consolidated itself, and I was comfortable with what was left from the,
Okay, so you're
Editing
fine
of it.
with what's there.
what's there.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
so
I-
I wouldn't advocate for or against, because I thought it was already consolidated.
Okay. Phyllis is requesting a change slightly in that line. She says, provides responsive, equitable service to town residents and instills the value of good customer service and staff. I think she combined the one that was crossed out. I'm for either one. It doesn't, I think they say basically the same thing. It's responsiveness and equitable services to town residents that are the key elements, and whether we say determines citizens' needs.
I like Phyllis's use of the word equitable. I think it's nice to really stress equitable and neutral throughout the
Yeah.
form.
Well, it already has it. Equitable's
Oh.
already in the line. She just changed determines citizens' needs, and she just took out the first 4 words, and then at the end, replace community with town residents, and then the whole instills the value of good customer service, which I'm fine with. I could recommend that we go with that wording.
Phyllis's wording?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, Phyllis's wording it is. All right, next one, Michael, what do you?
Communicates effectively with the public, but we just combined that,
Yeah.
right?
No, I mean, that's different.
Maintains respectful police and civil speech.
I have both of those checked. Does anybody else have both? Well, Ms. Adams said she was fine
It
with
was
where
already
they are.
felt pre-consolidated, yeah.
Phyllis wanted to drop the maintains respectful police? I don't get that. What does the police have to do with it? Yeah, I think that's supposed to be polite, yeah. I think we should have respectful police too, but I don't think really.
And we do.
Yeah, and we do. There we go. All right, so maintains respectful, polite, and civil speech and demeanor and dealings. Well, I don't want to remove that. Let's leave that. So, maintains a good working relationship, I guess she want, as well as with other regional, state, and federal agencies. I think she should just combine the two, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
If we want to use her wording.
Consolidating
Yeah,
effort. In terms of polite police, I mentioned a lemonade stand, and some police stopped by my nephew's lemonade stand, and it just gave you a good feeling,
Yeah.
you know, like two cruisers rolled up and they bought their lemonade. It was a nice gesture.
That sounds like the beginning of a joke. Two cruisers rolled up to a lemonade stand. All right.
And shut it down.
Yeah, no, thank God, not in this town. So the only one you didn't like was number 1, demonstrates a constant and sincere interest in providing the highest quality service to town. You didn't like that one?
Yes.
Did anybody else like that one?
The only two I circled were the first two.
Okay, so I circled the first one as well. And you, again,
I
you were
felt like
fine.
it was a pre-consolidated one, read okay to me.
So there's 2 that we have 3, 1 and 2. So which one do people, we don't want to approve both of them. Let's choose one of them.
Which ones are we just saying?
The
one
first
or
2
two?
bullets. They both had 3 votes.
Understands.
Yeah. Okay, let's choose number 2. Understands the basic principle. All right. Damon, number 6, fiscal management. Well, this one only had 4. I was for all 4 of them.
All 4 were fine. I singled out the second one and the fourth one, like, 2 most important. Makes the best possible use of the
I felt like it was pre-consolidated, Phyllis picked the 4.
Okay, good. I think we're all
Is that
set. I think,
okay?
are you okay with that? All right, so those 4. All right. As one of my high school physics teachers would say, cooking with gas here. All right, number 7, relations with members of the board. Okay. So, I think are we up to you, Damon? Oh, no, I think we're up to me, starting. So I have the first one, maintains effective communication with the board, maintains mutual trust, and treats all board members equally. Anybody have that one?
I have no opinion on this category.
No, oh, that's right. The likability category? Yes.
Boy, I like bullet 1.
Did you like bullet 1?
Kind of.
Kind of, okay. Let's
So
see if we
like
have
a
other ones.
2.5.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Phyllis didn't like it. Didn't choose it, not that she didn't like it. All right, so then, see, I think bullets 1, and then the next one, keeps all board members advised, that's almost redundant. And then disseminates complete and accurate information equally. I think those are all the same thing. So we could combine them in some way, because they're all talking about keeping members advised of the status of project, work assignments, and treats everybody as a...
Yeah, maintaining
Oh.
effective communication is
Right.
keeping the board advised, so I think we can strike some of that.
I felt it kept board members advised and disseminates complete and accurate information where it felt more like it belonged on the reporting to me, but.
Well, yeah, it's the equally to all members. That's why I think the first one kind of captures that. All right, let's...
Correct, I do feel like bullet 1 says the same thing as the disseminating
Right.
one, but it says it nicer.
Okay, well, let's go with... There we go. So how about, is everybody okay with that? Oh, I'm not going to look at you, sorry.
Yeah, taking out the disseminating part and keeping the maintained.
Well,
Or we're just signing out the maintains right now.
well, maintains goes with effective communication, but with complete and accurate information equally, you need a verb there. So not disseminates, which sounds a little clinical, distributes, provides complete and accurate information equally to all members in a timely manner. Is that okay?
What bullet are you?
The disseminates one, but he didn't like disseminates.
No, no,
I think we can
no.
strike, I was thinking maybe strike that whole sentence.
Yeah, that's what I thought we were
Because it's
talking.
captured in bullet one.
Oh,
But
okay.
because it says effective communication and mutual trust, it's just a nicer.
Oh,
way
that,
than-
oh, you, okay, I heard you in reverse. I thought you said that the disseminates one
No, I
captured
like
it
the
nicer.
first one because I feel like the
Good.
disseminates and equally and timely, it's a
Sounds
little
good.
bit
All
more
right,
negative.
maintains, we're gonna go with maintains. Okay, so bullet one. Offers professional advice to the board.
I had that one.
Yeah, so did Phyllis. He offered on stuff we're fighting, on stuff.
I think that's an important part of the role whenever
Okay.
we have complete streets or any type of thing, all the data
Yep.
comes from Heather.
Okay, responds well to requests, advice, and constructive criticism.
I had that one.
Yeah, absolutely had that one. And so did Phyllis. Do you have that one as well?
I mostly like maintains and offers, but it's already a pretty consolidated one compared to others. It reads pretty quickly, so I'm comfortable with it.
Okay, so that one. So those, how about those three? What else did Phyllis have here? Disseminates we talked about. Carries out directives of the body as a whole. Which one is that? Oh yeah, I didn't choose that one. Because that the equally, I think that's covered in number one as well. Disseminates we figured is redundant of number one of maintains, and the other two we chose. Let's go with those three. And reporting. Back to you, Mrs. Adams, for reporting.
I feel like it already read fine. It's only a few bullets in their short sentences.
One, two.
It's really the beginning had a ton of redundancy and
Yep.
it improved as it went along naturally.
I didn't vote for two of them. So I'm fine with everything except I didn't choose, not, maybe because I thought I didn't write why I didn't choose them at this point, because I rated them, but I didn't choose the last bullet, and I didn't choose two above that. So I didn't choose takes the initiative to provide information, advice, and recommendations to the board. And I didn't choose produces and handles reports in a way to convey the message that affairs of the organization are open to public scrutiny.
I also did not choose the takes the initiative one.
I would agree with removing that in the sense that that's up for debate and whether or not that's the role.
Okay. You have any problem with removing that one?
Fine.
And how about the last one?
I had the last one.
You had the last one, okay. Provides regular information, Phyllis had, responds in a timely manner, that's important. Takes the initiative, we're not going to, reports produced by the manager are accurate.
Share the second one.
Oh, there, okay, there we go, thank you. All right, so we just remove one, and we'll maintain the other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're gonna go with,
I mean, I also removed responds in a timely manner to requests from the board. I thought that maybe fit better into a different category.
we're talking about reporting, I think, isn't it?
Yes.
So, and that has to do with special reports. So, it seems like directly, okay.
What would be an example?
Of what?
A special report.
Exactly.
Not to put the town manager on the spot, but I've asked for a special report on the ballot questions.
Got it.
Okay. And then
So
the
that's a
reporting
special
should-
report.
Okay.
Or bag fees.
Bag fees.
Okay.
And that's a good example. Thank you.
Okay, I think that does it. So if we can get that as a final without the markups, and then we can review it one last shot, and then if we can plan to have Mark Terry review with us those items so if we approve this, then at least we'll get the document done, then we'll talk about how we can do the process with Mark Terry with all the legal questions we had, which I have here from last week.
This is one of our goals, is it not?
No, this is not one of
Oh,
the
no,
town-
I'm thinking of the
Reappointment.
redoing the reappointment.
Reappointments.
But my thought process is that this is something for almost a year from now, and I feel like we're close to accomplishing it.
Yeah, no, I'm very happy with the progress, yeah. Today was a very productive
So it'll
day.
be completely completed before we need to go near it, which is nice.
The quote from City Slickers, "Today was my best day."
I think we've been cranking through since.
Yeah, no, I think it's very good. And
since
if we can keep this,
new
if we
reorganization.
keep focused. Now, I will report, obviously, at the next meeting I'm at, which is the August 6th meeting, but the town manager can provide, because she'll be at the meeting tomorrow as well, she can provide, or I can provide maybe a summary. Maybe you could provide a summary
Are
of
we
the
asking
meeting.
for special report?
No, we're not asking for a special report yet. I feel like this is the Brinkley hour, Brinkley hour. We have a special report. But.
This makes you excited.
Right.
No, this week.
Okay.
What time is the meeting at tomorrow?
4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
So, any final public comment from the public, which we lost? Any public comment from the board?
Yeah, I have a public comment.
Yes.
So we got a lot of, as we all know, we got a lot of emails from residents over the course of the weekend. And when I was hoping that someone that would still be here for this, but I'm sure that they're going to watch this from home, which is really just a statement that the decision to respond to emails that come through in no means is a reflection of whether or not it's received and absorbed and accepted. And that, although in this instance I thought it was necessary to do that, I do not believe that that should be the norm, because I think that we should really focus on this forum as the forum for residents to come and engage us and ask questions and for us to respond to them. But I think we kind of, we walk a line, a very fine line, when I think when we speak to residents about issues that can come before the board and that will come before the board in a way that is not public and in front of the board. So, so I appreciate all the comments, and I just want to relay that, in the future, if I choose not to respond to an email, it is not a reflection of whether or not I read it or understand it or have an opinion about it. It's just maybe a reflection of me believing that there are sensitivities which are not best written through email.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, as I received them, because I knew we were meeting and I knew we had a meeting tonight, I didn't respond individually. In the past, if it was going to be more than a couple of days, sometimes I just respond to people that I'm in receipt of your email so they don't guess whether I received it, and say that we'll bring it up before the board, because of course we are bound by open meeting law, so I really can't respond. And without the authority of the whole board and with us discussing it, I can't promise anything. I can just tell people that I'll bring it up to the board and we'll discuss it openly at our next meeting. So it's a very fine line, and it's a balancing act a lot of times.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. I think that's a lot of what I was thinking at the, during public comment, is just because there's not response or people don't use one format or another doesn't mean it's not digested or taken in or given consideration. And sometimes I'm not sure whether or not a response is appropriate on a certain topic, and I err on the side of caution. And I think we're all entitled to handle our emails in our own way, but I think it's good to tell everybody who interacts that a lot of time and effort's put in, and everybody does it in a different way. And what I sort of public commented after board comment on the Lake Shirley issue, and I think what I would say in my board comment upon closing is, whenever there's a group, whether it's Rob's Hill, and I've been involved in community advocacy on different things, I always appreciate the time and effort and dedication that any group puts into following through any topic. Lake management is extremely complicated, and again, I just want to make sure we don't go lake by lake, because there's so many different issues. Like Hickory Hills doesn't generally use chemicals, and so the issues that go through conservation, their speed may be determined by what the ask is and things like that. But I think the Lake Shirley group has done a lot of work keeping these man-made lakes alive. Is an ongoing huge problem for any, not just man-made lakes, but those, Lake Shirley and Hickory Hills are both man-made lakes, which means they're less natural, more shallow, have more problems. So I appreciate all of their effort, because we see them come meeting after meeting, and I hope that everything works out, because like one citizen said, the value of property and everything's dependent upon a quality lake. So I hope that's what we accomplish through all of this.
Yeah, my, one thing I want everybody to know at home is that anything that gets brought before this board, first of all, I know some people are nervous when they come before the board and speaking publicly, but every issue that comes before us, I want people to have a voice. I can tell everyone with complete assuredness that we hear you and we will address the concerns you have. I can't guarantee that we'll come to the conclusion or the decisions that you'd like all the time, but everybody will be heard, and everybody and all the facts will be weighed in our decisions getting there. We don't take anything lightly. We don't take anything for granted, and as long as I'm on the board, and I hope I speak for the rest of the members, no one will ever be dismissed in the subjects that they bring up to the board. So.
Can I make I want to make an additional comment to the comment. Go ahead. I also want to point out that, you know, there's a lot of work that goes into all of these meetings, and behind the scenes, there are a lot of people who work to record these meetings, to make sure it's interesting for the folks at home. So I want to certainly give my appreciation to the sound room. You know, I know today they're a little more chatty than usual, but but certainly I think everyone at home receives a humongous service, and everyone, you know, who's able to pull this up on YouTube because of the fact that there's someone always in the back room watching what we're saying and trying to capture it the best way that they can. So I just want to thank the back room today.
Yep.
My report.
Your report, yes. That's what we wanted to do.
Is it special? I think so. Okay. No, so you want to hold off?
Yeah, we'll hold off on the rest of the regular current, the other policies.
I think that makes sense because I feel like we did such a great job that.
Yeah, I don't want to crowd it out here. But let's come prepared for we've talked about having, because you're not going to be here on the 6th, we talked about having a workshop on the 6th, and then our regular meeting, stage meeting on the 16th, switch those around. 13th, I'm sorry. I can add by 7s, no problem. I think that's a good idea. So at that meeting, the 6th, prepare to talk about the rest of the policies and anything anybody wants to review.
Right.
I just won't, because in your packet tonight were my recommended changes to those policies. I just won't be here to explain.
Well, I will do exactly like I did with Phyllis, I will make sure that we discuss them exactly. Okay. Town manager report.
We already discussed the 2 walkability meetings, Whalum area on July 25th at 5 p.m. and the Main Street area on July 30th at 5 p.m. And just to reiterate, I'm going to start announcing all the vacancies again. It's going to all be repetitive because we've had the same vacancies for a period of time. So the Agricultural Commission, we have 1 regular member and 3 alternate vacancies. The Americans with Disabilities Act Commission, we have 1 vacancy. The Architectural Preservation District Commission, we have 1 design professional, craftsman person, or building contractor familiar with historic renovation. We have a vacancy on the Finance Committee that's appointed by the Finance Committee Appointing Committee. 1 elected position on the Housing Authority, that would be a joint appointment with the remaining members of the Housing Authority and the Selectmen. And 1 elected position vacancy on the Sewer Commission, that would be a joint appointment with the remaining members of the Sewer Commission and the Selectmen. And 1 regular member and 2 associate vacancies for the Zoning Board of Appeals. And talent bank forms can be either downloaded from our website or can be requested from the Board of Selectmen's office. Update on the Summer Street Road reconstruction project. The concrete sidewalk installation is ongoing in the Lunenburg section of the project. The contractor is working on excavating and grading in preparation for granite curb and sidewalk installation in the Leominster section of the project. And work at the Bakers Brook Bridge has been put on hold while the crew preps for and paves driveways in the Lunenburg section of the project. And the bridge work is expected to wrap up in the fall. The Eagle House earmark. After much back and forth with a representative at the Department of Housing and Community Development, All the documentation and standard contract information was submitted to DHCD and fully executed, and this allows the town to receive the earmark of $25,000 that was in the state's fiscal 19 budget under the Department of Housing and Community Development.
If I may, so that means we will be getting those funds. I want to thank you and your staff for, with such late notice, working with DHCD and working with our state legislative body to come up with how to solve this when we were told with literally 3 weeks left in the fiscal year. So real kudos to you for putting that together and making sure we didn't lose that line item.
I'm glad we were able to capture it because we couldn't do a project in that amount of time,
Sure.
advertise, select a contractor and get the work done for the HVAC system. This way they allowed us to use it for utility expenses and smaller projects. So
Sure.
Thankful for that. Mass DEP Recycling IQ Kit Grant Kickoff Meeting. Last week we had a 2-hour kickoff meeting with officials from Mass DEP, representatives from Casella, the DPW director, the DPW administrative assistant, the town manager's executive assistant, and myself to review all the details of what is expected of the town to submit to Mass DEP, review the process, and designate the responsible parties. I'm currently working on putting together all the documents required, including a budget that needs to be submitted to Mass DEP before they will execute a contract. And we cannot begin until we receive the executed contract. And so there's a lot of trigger dates in this process because part of it is education, and there's educational materials that we have to get through a publisher that's contracted through the state, and they have, lead times on all those materials. So it's important that we meet all those. So once that occurs, we can start our educational campaign and efforts to reduce the town's contamination in our recycling. This will be a major push to educate, but also to enforce elimination of materials that do not belong in the recycling. This will require a time commitment from all parties aforementioned, the ability to meet the deadlines that are part of the grant requirements, and the ability to hire curbside checkers that will need to be trained. The goal is to cut our contamination rate in half by the end of the campaign.
And when is the campaign?
It will be ongoing.
Okay.
Engineering services for year 2 of the MS4 permit. The Stormwater Task Force, the Land Use Director, and myself met with 2 firms on Thursday, July 11th. Both firms were highly qualified. Ultimately, we agreed to proceed with negotiating with Comprehensive Environmental, Inc. There are additional items that they will be providing us estimates with, and the DPW director and I will meet with the firm shortly to review all the tasks and the roles and responsibilities of both the town and the firm, and then all the stakeholders will meet to review the scope of work. So we should see some cost savings from what we estimated, given the numbers that were provided by our contractor that we had for year 1 of the MS4 permit. So, but those final numbers aren't known at this moment. ADA Public Rights of Way Public Outreach Survey. As part of updating the Public Rights of Way transition plan in accordance with ADA, Montechusett Planning Commission has created a survey that we are disseminating through the following means. It will be in the Lunenburg Ledger, posted on the town website under latest news and announcements. Paper surveys will be distributed at Town Hall, Eagle House, Ritter, and the library. It will be distributed through the town-wide email listserv, posted on town Facebook pages, and the link is obviously anyone can go to. It's a SurveyMonkey link, and the surveys will be due back August 16th. Meetings that I'll be attending is I'll be attending a dispatch administration board meeting tomorrow in Bolton, and the personnel committee meeting on Monday the 22nd.
Excellent. I apologize for having public comment before your report.
And a public comment after the report that I should have made at the very beginning, if that's okay.
Sure.
I attended my first farmer's market of this season, and I was so impressed.
Yeah.
The new market manager. I mean, it was a real outing moment. I got chocolate milk. there was fresh cut flowers, produce. It was just a really nice experience. I was so impressed. I thought it was such a nice thing to be happening in town center. So thank you to everybody who participates that in any way. My kids and I had such a nice time, and it was just a really well-run market.
I agree. I've been there. First one, I wasn't there last week, but I was there. I mean, I was there Sunday, but not the week before. And the amount of traffic going through there, the amount of vendors, the activity, and I know that now they're talking about expanding it a little bit in hours, and I won't preempt what the Agricultural Commission is going to ask for, but I got told that they want to extend it a little bit. It was wonderful, and I mean, there was so much activity of all different types. I mean, it was great getting people from out of town, not only people from Lunenburg, but people obviously, you know, artisans and farmers from Lunenburg. So I would
I was very proud of it. I thought
Yeah.
this is just nice,
Yeah,
and I was
very
very
nice.
grateful for everybody who's put it together.
And unlike past years, they've actually had great weather so far, knock on wood.
Yeah, there it goes.
Except thus far. Next meeting, so we have a meeting next week. I will not be at that meeting, so Phyllis as vice chair will be heading that, if there is one. Right now, there's a very slim agenda, and I will be discussing it with town manager, because it may not be enough to want, or you may want to do it and have a quick meeting, just to see what quick meetings are like.
I would love that.
So I'll leave that open. Then we're not, obviously, on the 20,
The 30th would be.
on the
a
30th
walk.
is our last, it's the last Tuesday of the month, so the sewer commission will be here. We don't have a meeting. So then after next week, the next meeting will be on the 6th, right?
Yes.
August 6th.
August 6th.
We're not anticipating, oops, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, you're posted, though, for the 25th and 30th. The board is.
As the
just
walk-
For
Right, the
those
walk
walkability
right.
meetings, if you plan to attend.
I don't know why we would need to post, because.
If there's any,
We
if you
might
have
accidentally
discussion at the
deliberate.
end, then
Okay. Better safe than sorry.
If we're not expecting much on the agenda for the 23rd, just one thing to point out is it's a 5 Tuesday month, and we typically have 3 meetings anyways. We did miss the one on the 4th of July, but I don't know. Just in anticipation of it not being a full meeting, I don't know if we want to release the day into the universe.
Again, I'll
I mean,
see.
I think it benefits Heather and anybody involved if we really don't have content or much of a reason to meet. I don't want to
I
bring
agree
people
with
in
you. I agree with
on
you.
a summer evening.
Yeah. It's just that it's scheduled, and right now, you know, a lot of things that happen between now and Thursday afternoon, and so we can make that decision on Thursday.
Later, okay.
Okay.
Would you rather have a short meeting or no meeting?
No meeting.
I kind of figured.
I think there is one agenda item that I don't think we can postpone.
Poll
It's
hearing?
the poll petition.
Well, then.
That's already
Okay,
been.
then we have a meeting.
Yeah, but it could be just that item, so, and you.
Let's
yeah.
make it quick.
Yep,
I'm
it's been-
excited.
Been advertised.
And that's a public hearing, right?
Okay.
Are they gonna come in with their inadequate
No,
map?
I already
again?
reviewed, like, there's the driveway
I say that out
location
loud?
on the plan.
Okay, good.
So,
So Unitil did make the adjustment.
All right, I rescind that last remark. All right. So again, Board of Selectmen policies for the 6th, be prepared to.
So we're doing a
discuss.
workshop, or is it a meeting?
Yeah, it'll be a workshop on the 6th, because Heather will not be here.
Yeah, that's what I thought you said earlier. I wrote it down. Okay.
All right, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Or a second. Any discussion? I hope not. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Good night, everyone.